That's so.
Hey, tea sippers. Come on in. Happy Memorial Day. That's how we jamming out. What it do? What it do? How you doing? How till the world glow? Till the world glow? What it do? Happy Memorial Day. Welcome. I got some catching up to do. Baby, I had a full day yesterday. You know how sometimes you drink too much or eat too much or something, you be up all night. I was up all night until this morning. Yeah. Yeah, so I got some catching up to do. Is that all right? I hear our president been acting up, running scared, lying, still stealing, tried to leave. You know, tried to become a fugitive. Man, that's gonna be funny if that pops off the way they saying it is, and he was trying to leave Florida and DC and trying to act like he's still in the White. What? Did he go to his son's reception in the Bahamas? Did he sneak out with the fake shootout? I mean, what? Hey, Joe. They say they knew the cat. You know, they knew he had some mental stuff. But hell, he done cut off, you know, some of their insurance and disability veterans and all that type of stuff. And for the mental, you know, feeding it to his fat ass family. I mean, not literally. I mean, you know, fat stealing. Paying for Israel, you know, just a traitor of the United States. And they said that man be around there huffing and puffing all the time. They probably did him the same way they did Tyler Robinson. He a crisis actor, and he thinking he was in a movie or some shit. Auntie Fee, huh? Yeah, cause Charlie Kirk, supposed shooter, hell, he was a crisis actor. He was in some car accident one time and was acting like his mama or sister or somebody. These folks be crisis actors. They playing in our face with crisis actors. When are we gonna wake up? Hell, I even think some of what's going on in the Mo3 sector, this bizarre shit. You know, one person know everybody. Yeah, I think this is a part of the documentary or movie or some stuff because it went way far-fetched. Yeah. Making folk think they special. You ain't special. You just being passed around. These people probably got mental issues with Trump and they using them and they thinking, oh, you'll have a meal, you'll have a place to stay. We need for you to, you know, be an actor. Do your debut. And allegedly take them out. I don't know if I believe none of it anymore. I only believe in God. And any and everybody, real life, YouTube, if they don't believe in Christ, I don't believe in them. They the devil. And if you okay with playing the role of a non-believer, then shame on you. I'd never do it. I would never do it. But some of these people are this thirsty and hungry and mental and will do anything for a piece of change. It's a no for me. I'm not going to ever get behind somebody who has made he has been a graper, a grapist, a iller longer than he been a president combined. And y'all folks just running behind him. And he is self-proclaimed cookie monster. Y'all better watch out from them cookie bakers riding around in that white van. Yeah, snatching folk, handing them off to be trafficked. I absolutely believe that. You gotta be careful who you entertain, who has been, handled and trafficked, and then come back to the United States, and folk think this is another person, think he clean in the head. No, he gonna traffic you. That's all he knows now. But let him take. So, God forgive me. Ooh, I almost went there. No, you just gotta wake up and pay attention. Trump and Bibi Netanyahu, Russia, all of them are doing some strange things for a new world order. And the new world order is about defeating Christ. We got to start calling it what it is. But let me get on. Let me get our brother man to pray for us. We've been missing a few prayers, and Auntie Fee been saying some crazy stuff on YouTube. But they say it's for entertainment purposes, ain't it? Huh? I mean, wow. Once I start playing they game with them, they get all in their feelings. Woo, they get on a panel and try to double team on TV because I done heard all they feelings. Somebody said, ooh, she must be pressure. Yes, I'm pressure. For real. This mouth can be deadly for entertainment purposes, but I'm telling the truth on how I feel. Though you can rest for sure of that. What I say, I mean. For the most part. But let's get to old brother man to pray, because Auntie Fee have been out the way and probably will say something kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Yeah. So let me see if I can get the brother to come on. Ooh, baby, did y'all see them knots upside old boy head? I think I got a headache just watching that. Is this for today? Let me see. Monday, the 25th. Let's go, brother man. If ever you needed the Lord before, so do. Where my stand? Need him now. Because, Lord, these folks better stop playing with me, having me saying crazy stuff, having to ask God to forgive me for the words I say, whether it's for entertainment or not. I had to catch myself, y'all. I had to say, now, Lord. No. Now, Lord, now, you know my heart. I'm just getting these monkeys and animals and snakes up off me. But you know my heart. You know what I'm saying ain't in my heart. It's just, yeah. Auntie Fee, you had to ask God to forgive. I had to ask the Lord to forgive me for the words that came out of my mouth. And I can't play with God as if I can just say it's for entertainment purposes. The God say the lie and the truth ain't in you. That ain't how it works. But thank God that's not what's in your heart when you let that crap come out your mouth. Baby, I play. I can giggle, kiki, and ha ha all day long with you, baby. But when it comes to time when God say, slow down, slow down. I gotta pull my mule rope. You understand? I don't play that much. But hold on. But that's for the Lord. Don't have nothing to do with nobody. That's between me and God. You understand? Not you. Not nobody on earth. It's just between me and God. Our relationship is bigger than anything on earth. You understand? In my life. Let us pray. Let's go. Oh, where my volume at? I gotta get caught up from yesterday and today. But from yesterday, y'all, I definitely want to start kind of where I left off with him trying to lead a country. And I was trying to tell y'all when they was talking about he was trying to, Bless the Lord. Can I pray for your Monday? Dear God, I pray for the person that is here with me right now. God, the enemy wants for them to think that they are hopeless, that there is no reason to have joy today. The enemy wants them to be stressed out, on edge, anxious. But God, I pray in the name of Jesus that joy rises up today. I pray over them, 1 Peter 1 verse 8, that they are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy. I pray John 17:13, that they may have the full measure of your joy within them. Yeah. I pray John 15:11, that your joy may be in them and that their joy may be complete. Some people woke up this morning already overwhelmed, already tired, already anxious, but God, let them know that you are already in their Monday before they even open their eyes. This day is already blessed. From the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, the Lord's name is to be praised. Yeah. God, worries pile up so easily, but you were still God. You were still seated on the throne. Nothing happening in their life has caught you by surprise. Lord, I pray that today would restore their soul. Your word says in Psalm 92:13 and 14, those who are planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish. They shall still bear fruit in old age. They shall be fresh and flourishing. In old age. I pray that they would flourish spiritually, emotionally, physically, in old mentally. Age. Let God got me. Bloom again. Hold on, I'm gonna start over because I heard old age and folks be trying to act like old age is a problem. They better hope they make it. Monday? They better hope they make it. And the way they live in life right now, they may not. So let us pray for them who try to chastise or bring ill will to older people. Now, I'm not as old as they say they are, but I'm not ashamed of it because I think I look dang good. I think I move around dang good. And I don't have to do ungodly things. Yeah. To maintain in life. I can still hold my head up knowing that I am somewhat pleasing to God. Yeah. Let's start over. Because I heard old age. And some of these folk look way older than the people that are more seasoned and mature. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. They act like their mirror don't work. They look like they're the same age as the people that they are calling old. How dare they? But let's go. Dear God, shout out to the old people that is here with me right now. God, the enemy wants for them to think that they are hopeless, that there is no reason to have joy today. The enemy wants them to be stressed out, on edge, anxious. But God, I pray in the name of Jesus that joy rises up today. I pray over them, 1 Peter 1 verse 8, that they are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy. I pray John 17:13, that they may have the full measure of your joy within them. I pray John 15:11, that your joy may be in them and that their joy may be complete. Some people woke up this morning already overwhelmed, already tired, already anxious. But God, let them know that you are already in their Monday before they even open their eyes.
This day is already blessed. From the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, the Lord's name is to be praised. God, worries pile up so easily, but you were still God. You were still seated on the throne. Nothing happening in their life has caught you by surprise. Lord, I pray that today would restore their soul. Your word says in Psalm 92:13 and 14, those who are planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish. They shall still bear fruit in old age. They shall be fresh and flourishing. I pray that they would flourish spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally. Let dry places bloom again. Let hope rise again. Let joy return again. Protect their mind today, Lord. Let your truth speak louder than any fear, than any insecurity, regret, or shame. Colossians 3:15 says, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. So God, let peace rule over every anxious thought. Let your peace rule over every fear about tomorrow. Let your peace settle over their home like a covering. Father, I pray blessings over their family. Bless their children, bless their marriage, bless their friendships, bless every relationship that honors you, Jesus. Heal brokenness, bring reconciliation where there has been division. I pray that this Monday would fill them with fresh strength for the week ahead. Your word says in Isaiah 40:31 that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Renew their strength today, God. Renew their passion. Renew their faith. Renew their vision. Renew their confidence in you, Lord. And Father, help us to never forget that their greatest blessing is not in anything of this world, but it is in knowing you. Nothing compares to you, Jesus. Thank you for loving us through every season of our life. Thank you for being near to us. Thank you for carrying us on our worst days. Thank you for holding us together whenever we needed it the most. I pray all these things in the mighty and wonderful name of Jesus. Amen. Have a blessed Monday.
Same to you. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. Hey, Belinda. Hey, Mrs. Tom. Joe. I think I spoke to Room Shaker Cynthia. Okay. So when I just abruptly ended the day before yesterday or whatever day that was, okay. Oh, okay. I need to get you off of here. Okay, precious. Okay, bye-bye. I was talking about, they was talking about Trump leaving. And I briefly showed y'all, tried to tell y'all why he was, why he chose Texas. But I want to pick up on old girl, because yesterday she talked about what the judge did and said. I did not watch it, but I started and then I stopped. So I need to pick up there and then jump into all this turmoil, email deleted, blocked, saved all text messages. Let me find old girl where she was talking about what happened when he tried to get away sneakingly. Do y'all remember that? That's in here. That's what I ended on the other night. Flight blocked is what she said. So let's pick up here.
Blank. White House Sunday.
Or do I need to start with? Let's hear it.
Sunday, day 3 of the Trump travel ban situation. Judge Kathleen Hartwell issued an emergency order at 11:58 p.m. last night, stopping Air Force One on the tarmac before wheels up. 90 seconds. That's how close the jet came to departing before federal marshals handed the order to Secret Service. 3 days, 11 major developments. Here's where we are.
Was he really trying to sneak out of...
Legally blocked as of midnight. Judge Hartwell's order citing active contempt proceedings. White House counsel challenging jurisdiction in emergency session right now. Today changed the constitutional equation completely. A sitting federal judge just stopped a presidential aircraft mid-departure. That has never happened before. But most
His
coverage
personal
treats
jet.
this as a travel story. I'm going to show you the complete timeline.
Because I kept saying, why are they not saying Air Force One? He was trying to go on his private jet. He was trying to sneak away, y'all. I don't know if he was trying to go to his son's wedding or wedding reception. You know, I felt like all of that stuff, getaway, The guy getting shot by near the White House couldn't been assassinated. So you can't have no whatever incident in DC without them saying it's an assassination attempt. I mean, it's just so much with this man. Oh my God. How can a grown man require so much attention? So many pats on the back. So many stroking of the ego. I mean, oh my God. I see why you can't keep a woman. Come on, girl. Come on.
Started Friday, where the contempt fight is now, where the three separate legal tracks are going. Judge Hartwell's order citing active contempt proceedings. White House counsel challenging jurisdiction in emergency session right now. Today changed the constitutional equation completely. A sitting federal judge just stopped a presidential aircraft mid-departure. That has never happened before. But most coverage is treating this as a travel story. I'm going to show you the complete timeline, where this started Friday, where the contempt fight is now, where the three separate legal tracks are going. 3 tracks, all moving, all connected. By the end, you'll see why this isn't about one trip anymore. Let's map this out. Current situation. Trump, grounded at Joint Base Andrews as of 12:03 a.m. Legal team in emergency session. Departure timeline unknown. Judge Kathleen Hartwell, order issued and served, backed by Ninth Circuit Emergency Authority, contempt proceedings active. White House counsel, filed emergency stay motion at 1:17 a.m., hearing before Judge Hartwell set for 9 a.m. this morning. Active proceedings, federal contempt case, District Court, Washington, D.C., emergency stay motion, filed overnight, hearing this morning at 9 a.m. Senate Judiciary Committee, convening Monday on judicial authority over executive travel. Immediate pressure points. 9 a.m. emergency hearing. Judge Hartwell rules on whether the travel block holds. Monday Senate hearing. Determines whether Congress intervenes or lets courts proceed. That's the snapshot. Now let me show you how 3 days turned a document compliance dispute into a judge stopping a presidential jet at midnight. 6 weeks ago.
Wow. His private jet. So Air Force One wouldn't know.
That's the snapshot. Now let me show you how 3 days turned a document compliance dispute into a judge stopping a presidential jet at midnight. 6 weeks ago, Judge Kathleen Hartwell ordered the White House to produce communications related to pardons issued during the final days of the previous administration. Documents the DOJ had classified improperly. A former federal prosecutor warned, if the White House stonewalls Hartwell, this ends in contempt. She doesn't blink. White House claims executive privilege on all 847 documents. Rejected. Missed first production deadline, March 14th, citing internal review. Missed second deadline, April 30th, filing a 200-page privilege log instead of documents. Each time, delay tactics, not compliance. Day 1, Friday, May 22nd, 3:14 p.m. Judge Hartwell issues formal contempt order, not a warning, an order. The President of the United States is not above the jurisdiction of this court. White House counsel called it constitutionally invalid. DOJ filed emergency appeal to D.C. Circuit 4 hours and 22 minutes after the order dropped. What most people missed, Hartwell's contempt order included a travel restriction clause, buried on page 31, prohibiting departure from U.S. jurisdiction while proceedings are active. Nobody reported it Friday. Day 2, Saturday, May 23rd, 9 a.m., Trump boards Marine One heading to Andrews for the scheduled Middle East diplomatic trip. By boarding, Trump triggered the travel restriction clause Hartwell had already signed. Ninth Circuit granted Hartwell emergency enforcement authority at 6:47 p.m. Federal marshals dispatched to Joint Base Andrews at 10:30 p.m. The story split from contempt order into active enforcement situation. Day 3, Sunday, May 24th, today, 11:58 p.m. last night. Hartwell's emergency order delivered to Secret Service on the tarmac. Engine warm, stairs still deployed, 90 seconds from departure. This is where we are now. The pattern: each day, the White House escalated confrontation rather than comply. Each day, Judge Hartwell tightened enforcement and removed options. 3 days, a document production dispute became a presidential aircraft physically stopped on a runway by federal court order. The White House bet Hartwell would flinch. She issued the order at 11:58 p.m. on a Saturday night. She didn't flinch. Subscribe. This timeline keeps expanding, and the next 24 hours are the most critical yet. Yesterday's key development: the Ninth Circuit granted Judge Hartwell emergency enforcement authority at 6:47 p.m., and federal marshals were dispatched to Andrews within 4 hours. It transformed Hartwell's contempt order from a paper threat into a physical and...
So had he left? I mean, wait, what?
Granted Judge Hartwell emergency enforcement authority at 6:47 p.m., and federal marshals were dispatched to Andrews within 4 hours. It transformed Hartwell's contempt order from a paper threat into a physical enforcement mechanism. Any departure attempt would trigger immediate federal intervention on the tarmac in real time. Before yesterday, the White House could argue Hartwell's order was being appealed and therefore non-enforceable during the appeal window. After yesterday, the Ninth Circuit closed that window. Appeals do not automatically stay this order. That shift enabled last night's midnight confrontation.
See, when he first came into office again, they had made mention that they was going to challenge the Constitution of the United States, meaning that they was going to play these games with the law, stall it out, appeal, in order to change it going forth. Because remember, his intention is to run again or to stay in office in 2028. So when he has said, Christians, we need you to vote. I'm not Christian, but we need you to vote. I mean, so he planned on God's chosen, God loving, God fearing for the devil's playground. So if they keep saying that if this passes, if they get away with this, this is setting a precedent of the future. That the president will be able to dictate. So all of these playing games, dodging bullets, defying, not going through Congress for war, all of this is the setup for dictatorship. President don't have to jump through any hoops. There's no one that can regulate, dictate, or stop the president. So this is why it's vitally important that they're constantly challenged and knocked down, and that we vote to change this criminal political regime. Let's go. Hit the like button, y'all. Let's go.
Without yesterday's ruling, marshals had no authority at the aircraft. The sequence is precise. 6:47 p.m., Ninth Circuit grants enforcement authority. 10:30 p.m., federal marshals arrive at Andrews. 11:31 p.m., Trump boards Air Force One. 11:58 p.m., order served to Secret Service on the jetway. 12:03 a.m., wheels up, canceled. The White House knew about the Ninth Circuit ruling at 6:47. They boarded anyway at 11:31. That decision, boarding after enforcement authority was granted, is what turned yesterday into a midnight standoff. Today's development: Judge Hartwell's travel block is holding, and a 9 a.m. emergency hearing is now scheduled to determine whether it stays in place. Sunday morning, emergency session, Federal Courthouse, Washington, D.C. Why this is different from day one and day two. Day one, Hartwell issued a contempt order, words on paper. Day two, Ninth Circuit gave those words teeth, enforcement authority granted. Today, a presidential aircraft was physically stopped. Enforcement became reality. Before today, the White House could argue the travel clause was theoretical. After today, enforcement happened. There is now a factual record of federal court authority stopping a presidential departure. Before today, Trump's legal team was fighting on privilege grounds in appeals court. After today, the fight shifted to emergency stay territory. Can the travel block be lifted before 9 a.m.? Before today, this between the...
See, he's trying to confuse the powers. So this lawsuit that he's running from is January, when he was out of office and he staged this insurrection. Okay, so he was not the president. He wasn't the president when this lawsuit came about. So now that he's back as president, he is calling, presidential, entitlement. No, this wasn't about why you were as a president. These are crimes before you were reelected. Don't confuse the people. That's what because you are confusing yourself. You know exactly what you're doing.
Emergency stay territory. Can the travel block be lifted before 9 a.m.? Before today, this was a dispute between the White House and one federal judge. After today, federal marshals, Secret Service, Ninth Circuit, and White House counsel are all active participants in a live constitutional standoff. 3 days ago, Judge Hartwell signed a contempt order after weeks of stonewalling. 2 days ago, the Ninth Circuit gave her enforcement power, and marshals moved to the airport. Today, a presidential jet sits on a runway because a federal court said no. Each day removed one more escape route. Today removed the last one. The White House cannot claim the order was unenforceable. It was enforced at midnight on a runway. See how each day built on the last? Day 1 was paper. Day 2 was power. Last night was real. Like this video if you're following this. This isn't one story anymore. It's 3. Track 1. Federal contempt case. District Court, D.C. Status. Contempt order active. Emergency stay hearing at 9 a.m. today. Travel block in force until Hartwell rules otherwise. Key date. Today, 9 a.m. If Hartwell denies the stay, the travel block continues indefinitely. If she grants it, Trump can depart, but contempt proceedings accelerate in exchange. Track 2. Ninth Circuit Emergency Review. Status. White House counsel filed emergency motion at 1:17 a.m. challenging Hartwell's travel restriction authority. Panel convening today. Key date, this afternoon. If the Ninth Circuit lifts enforcement authority, the travel block collapses. If they uphold it, Hartwell's order stands regardless of what the White House argues. Track 3, Senate Judiciary Committee, Monday hearing. Status. Chairman Senator Daniel Morse announced emergency Monday hearing on judicial overreach into executive travel authority. Subpoenas for Hartwell's clerks already floated. Key date, Monday, 9 a.m. If Congress declares the order unconstitutional, political pressure on Ninth Circuit intensifies. If Congress stays out, courts control the resolution. How they connect. Track 1 outcome affects Track 2. If Hartwell modifies her order at 9 a.m., the Ninth Circuit motion becomes moot. Track 2 outcome affects Track 3. If Ninth Circuit upholds enforcement, Monday's hearing becomes about permanent legislative response, not a one-time event. They're not separate, they're synchronized. If Track 1 moves first, Ninth Circuit and Senate both react within hours. If Track 2 moves first, Hartwell's hearing becomes largely symbolic and Senate claims vindication. Who matters at this point? Judge Kathleen Hartwell issued contempt order, travel restriction, and midnight enforcement, all upheld by Ninth Circuit so far. She's not improvising. She's following the contempt enforcement playbook step by step, procedurally bulletproof. White House counsel team, emergency session since midnight, 3 separate motions filed, no compliance offered, challenging jurisdiction at every level simultaneously, District Court, Ninth Circuit, and public opinion via Senate, running out of moves. Senator Daniel Morse, Senate Judiciary Chairman, announced Monday hearing within 2 hours of the standoff going public. Framing this as judicial overreach to give the White House political cover can create noise and draft legislation, but cannot directly override the court order. Who dropped out? D.C. Circuit Appeals Court. The White House's Friday appeal went there first, but the Ninth Circuit's enforcement grant effectively sidelined that track. The power dynamic shifted from the White House controlling the timeline to Judge Hartwell controlling enforcement. This is complex. 3 courts, 2 branches, 1 runway. Stay with me. It gets clearer from here.
All right, let's go.
Why 3 days matters. A federal judge just demonstrated that contempt authority extends to physical enforcement against the executive branch, including stopping presidential travel. Before this week, the assumption was that contempt orders against a sitting president were effectively unenforceable. No one would physically stop the president. After this week, a federal judge issued a travel restriction. The Ninth Circuit backed it, and federal marshals stopped Air Force One 90 seconds before departure. You're a citizen who wins a federal lawsuit against a government agency. You get a court order. The agency ignores it. Before, you'd file motions, wait years, hope someone chose to comply. After, courts just proved they can enforce orders against the executive branch in real time, not years later, but on a runway at midnight. 3 days established that judicial authority over executive compliance is not theoretical. It is operational. Every future administration now knows if a federal judge issues a contempt order with an enforcement clause, the Ninth Circuit can back it with marshals within hours. Not will the court enforce this, but how fast? The answer we got last night? Fast enough to stop a jet 90 seconds before takeoff. 3 moments that mattered most. Moment 1, the travel restriction clause. Friday, 3:14 p.m. Hartwell buried a travel restriction clause on page 31 of the contempt order, prohibiting departure from U.S. jurisdiction during active proceedings. The White House missed it, the press missed it. Why it was critical? Without that clause, marshals had no authority at the airport last night. If this hadn't happened, Trump departs Friday. Courts order with an enforcement clause. The Ninth Circuit can back it with marshals within hours. Not will the court enforce this, but how fast? The answer we got last night? Fast enough to stop a jet 90 seconds before takeoff. 3 moments that mattered most. Moment 1, the travel restriction clause. Friday, 3:14 p.m. Hartwell buried a travel restriction clause on page 31 of the contempt order, prohibiting departure from U.S. jurisdiction during 15 p.m. Hartwell buried a travel restriction clause on page 31 of the contempt order, prohibiting departure from U.S. jurisdiction during active proceedings. The White House missed it, the press missed it. Why it was critical? Without that clause, marshals had no authority at the airport last night. If this hadn't happened, Trump departs Friday. Courts fight in his absence. Moment 2, Ninth Circuit enforcement grant. Saturday, 6:47 p.m. Ninth Circuit granted Hartwell emergency enforcement authority. Her order could be physically enforced without waiting for appeals to resolve. Why it was critical? This closed the appeal window the White House was counting on. Standard procedure is that appealing stays enforcement. The Ninth Circuit said no. If this hadn't happened, the White House boards, departs, and fights from abroad. Moment 3, the boarding decision. Saturday, 11:31 p.m. Trump boarded Air Force One at 11:31 p.m., 44 minutes after the Ninth Circuit enforcement grant was public. Why it was critical? Boarding after the enforcement order forced marshals to serve it at the aircraft. If this hadn't happened, the standoff stays in courtrooms. No midnight order, no tarmac moment, no precedent. Those 3 moments determined we ended up with federal marshals on a jetway at midnight. Like this video if this timeline breakdown helps. Every like tells the algorithm this analysis matters. What happens over the next week? Today, Sunday, May 24th, 9 a.m., emergency hearing before Judge Hartwell. Likely outcome? She denies the stay. She has granted 0 White House requests in this proceeding. Travel block continues. Also today, Ninth Circuit response to the 1:17 a.m. emergency motion. Likely outcome? They uphold enforcement authority. Reversing within 24 hours without new facts would be extraordinary. Monday, May 26th, 9 a.m. Senate Judiciary hearing opens. Political theater, no immediate legal effect. But watch for any Republican senator breaking from the White House position. That signals broader institutional support than the White House hoped. This determines whether Congress moves legislatively, which takes months, or courts resolve this first. Tuesday through Wednesday, White House expected to file Supreme Court emergency application if Ninth Circuit upholds enforcement. Senate Judiciary issues document requests to Hartwell's chambers. These connect a Supreme Court application and Senate subpoenas arriving simultaneously would be the most direct constitutional collision in decades. Thursday, May 28th. Supreme Court responds to emergency application if filed. 3 possible outcomes. 1. Supreme Court stays Hartwell's order. Trump departs, enforcement paused. 2. Supreme Court declines. Travel block becomes indefinite. 3. Supreme Court requests briefing. Resolution delayed by weeks. By next Sunday, June 1st, we'll know whether the Supreme Court intervened or let lower courts control this, whether the White House produced any documents or continued full refusal, whether Monday's Senate hearing produced defections or stayed partisan. The 3-day pattern suggests the White House keeps refusing and courts keep enforcing. Every time they chose confrontation, escalation followed within 24 hours. Next inflection point, today's 9 a.m. hearing. Everything in the next 7 days flows from what Hartwell rules in the next 3 hours. Subscribe. The next 7 days determine whether this ends in the Supreme Court, in compliance, or in something we've never seen before. Complete current state. Federal contempt case. Active. Travel restriction enforced. Emergency stay hearing at 9 a.m. today. Ninth Circuit. Enforcement authority granted Saturday. White House emergency motion pending. Senate Judiciary. Monday hearing scheduled. No legal authority to override courts, but significant political pressure potential. Judge Hartwell. Holds enforcement authority. 0 compliance offered. Procedurally correct at every step. White House counsel. Emergency motions at every level. No compliance. Betting on Supreme Court intervention. Senator Morse. Political pressure valve. Cannot override court order, but can complicate Ninth Circuit's environment. Locked. Contempt order upheld by Ninth Circuit. Travel restriction physically enforced. Marshals served the order on the tarmac. Public record. Open. Whether Hartwell stays her order at 9 a.m. Whether Ninth Circuit reverses this afternoon. Whether the White House offers documents as leverage. Whether the Supreme Court accepts an emergency application. Day 1. Contempt order with buried travel restriction. Day 2. Ninth Circuit enforcement. Marshals to Andrews. Day 3. Air Force One stopped 90 seconds from departure.
And y'all think y'all vote
Pattern
don't count.
escalating. Next inflection point, 9 a.m. today. 5 things to track. 1. Today's 9 a.m. Hartwell ruling. If she denies the stay, White House escalates to Supreme Court by afternoon. If she grants conditional stay, watch what documents they offer. That tells you if they're negotiating or still stonewalling. 2. Ninth Circuit afternoon response. A written opinion means they want this on record as precedent. A one-line order means they expect the Supreme Court to take it. 3. Supreme Court emergency docket. Could change everything if the court grants an emergency stay before Monday's Senate hearing. Removes political pressure entirely. 4. The 3-day pattern. If Monday's Senate hearing escalates like days 1 through 3, legislative action targeting Hartwell becomes real. If the pattern breaks, a quiet document deal is happening behind closed doors. 5. The question. Does judicial contempt authority extend to physically stopping a sitting president? Today's 9 a.m. hearing starts answering it permanently. I'll be covering Hartwell's ruling the moment it drops. Complete timeline breakdown then.
Oh, hold on, y'all. Hold on. So that was 2 days ago.
Courts have ruled that U.S. presidents are immune in civil cases for what they did in office, meaning they can't be sued. But can they be charged with a crime? That's a question that has never been tested. Now an appellate court has weighed in and decided unanimously former President Donald Trump is not immune, and he can be tried for his alleged crimes on January 6th. This after Trump's lawyers tried to set a new standard in court, which seemed to baffle the judges.
All right, everyone, Kyle Morgan
Hey,
here.
the kickback
So this is just
queen.
happening, guys. The Supreme Court denied Trump's appeal in a single word. No hearing, no arguments, just a cold rejection, 5-4, with 2 of his own appointees voting against him. The justices he personally selected found his immunity arguments unworthy of even a full hearing. Prison went from unthinkable to inevitable. The case at the center of this legal earthquake is the New York hush money prosecution, the one that resulted in Trump being convicted on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records.
Former President Donald Trump found guilty of all 34 counts.
Okay, let me go somewhere else. I'm not familiar with them. I am, but not really. They're not one of the ones I listen to. I'm just gonna go someplace. That one is too long. Let me see. Where is Ben?
Melania Trump's dark past
Hold
continues
on,
to
let me see what he got to say. Trump spiral and worse Memorial Day. He had a speech this morning. Ooh.
Private William.
I don't know what I'm trying to. Hold on, y'all. I'm trying. He had a meltdown on his speech.
Donald Trump has gotten a rude awakening throughout the entire world. World leaders and people across the world are done with this despicable Trump regime. You know how Donald Trump loves to say, the people of Venezuela love Trump. No, if you want to know what's really going on the ground there, they're protesting Donald Trump and Marco Rubio's imperialism. Here's what happened yesterday in Caracas, Venezuela. Let's
No,
play
this
this
ain't what I'm
clip as
trying to
they
hear. Hold on.
burned essentially Trump and Rubio in effigy with their photos. Let's play this clip. And then there was this phone call that Donald Trump made to leaders in the Middle East, and he said to them, look, if I make this deal with Iran, you got to do me a solid, and you got to enter into the Abraham Accords with Israel, all right? Hey, Saudi Arabia, you going to do a deal with Israel? Hey, Qatar, you're going to do a deal with Netanyahu, right? And these Middle East leaders went utterly silent as Donald Trump was saying this, and Donald Trump tried to crack a joke like, everybody okay here? Everybody everybody around? There was silence on the line, and Trump joked and asked if everybody is still there. Donald Trump is just so damn ignorant. He has no experts around him, and he thinks that it's all about him. There's a reason why Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and other Middle East nations have not joined the Abraham Accords. Within their countries, the approval for joining these accords, which basically means normalizing relations with Israel, it's like a 2% approval, 98% disapproval. Donald Trump may know something about that because that's where his approval's heading into the United States. And this idea that, okay, I'm going to do this Iran deal, but you got to become friends with Israel, it just misses what's actually going on in Gaza. what's going on in Lebanon, the genocide taking place, and how these Middle East countries have made it very clear that they're not going to have any conversations about the Abraham Accords until there is a two-state solution and until there is a resolution there. Speaking of what's going on across the world as well, Donald Trump continuing to betray Taiwan. U.S. arms sales to Taiwan have been paused. A senior U.S. military official finally confirmed on Sunday to the Washington Post. But if you were watching the Midas Touch Network, you knew that from last week. And of course, now MAGA Republicans, Democrats, regular Republicans, independents are really worried that Donald Trump just got completely outmaneuvered, outplayed, and bowed down to Xi Jinping in ways that were worse than they even imagined. That one of the deliverables, if you will, to Xi Jinping is being carried out right now by Donald Trump, pausing aid that was earmarked for Taiwan. Donald Trump, his regime, Marco Rubio, also getting a rude awakening in India. Marco Rubio was taking a purported diplomatic mission to India because the Trump regime pushed India away as an ally. India's become closer to its BRICS bloc allies like Russia and China and others, when Trump took the side of Pakistan completely over India and alienated India. So Rubio was there, and he was asked a question by a great reporter over there, Sindhat Sibal, who asked the following question. There's been a lot of racism coming from the United States against Indians. What's your response, Rubio? And then Rubio writes, I'm sure there are people that have made dumb comments because every country has stupid people. I'm sure there are stupid people here in India. You have stupid people, right? I don't know what else to tell you other than the U.S. is a very welcoming country. Our nation has been enriched by the people who come to our country and become Americans, have assimilated into our way of
Like
life,
his parents,
and have contributed greatly. And
like
as
his
Sindhat
parents,
Sabal, who was the reporter who asked that question, right?
his wife's
The United
parents.
States State Department has just deleted the post involving my question on racism against Indians, kind of proving the point right there. Now, the whole world also is seeing the United States run out of munitions. And Iran's pointing it out as well. Missiles to munitions, an Al Jazeera report writes. Does the U.S. risk running out of key weapons? While U.S. officials publicly project confidence in weapon stockpiles, analysts say dwindling munitions may be shaping Washington's calculations over whether to resume the war in Iran. And this is a major calculus of one of the reasons why Donald Trump needs to submit to Iran, because he ran out of munitions. He's run this war so terribly right now that they don't even have the munitions to continue the war if they want. And Iran knows that. The countries in the Middle East know that. The NATO allies know that. Countries in Asia know that. Everybody sees how weak Donald Trump is. Earlier yesterday morning, we also learned that the UK was joining France, Italy, Spain, and Canada in blocking a NATO plan that would have required allies to spend 0.25 or 0.25% GDP of military aid for Ukraine. Mark Rutte, who's the Secretary General, dropped the proposal after failing to secure unanimous support ahead of the alliance summit in Turkey. So there was the preliminary meeting before the Turkey summit in Sweden. And in response to the Trump regime trying to bully all of these nations in NATO are like, no, we're not doing it. We're standing together. And as I told you before, Europe is now talking about a European army. They're talking about what it looks like in a post-NATO world. And this meeting with NATO right here is at the foreign minister level. NATO pretty much has canceled all of its meeting at the president-prime minister level because nobody wants to be around Donald Trump. So they're doing this foreign minister level meeting, but they're not going to invite Trump to any of these meetings as well. Should also be noted that within a very short period of time of Netanyahu calling Donald Trump after Trump announced that he was close to doing this deal with Iran, the deal seems to, at this point, have kind of fallen apart. Donald Trump is backing away from the deal with Iran. likely under extreme pressure from Netanyahu and from the war hawks here in the United States who want this war to continue and want to continue bombing Iran and engaging in more war crimes. As Brett Erickson writes, it certainly appears as though negotiations have entirely fallen apart at this point.
Y'all still with me? Can y'all hear me?
Upfront compensation.
Hold on, maybe I'm spinning. Hold on. I buffing y'all. Can y'all hear me? Do I need to go out and come back in? Oh, this is loud and clear. Okay, hold on.
To Iran in the form of sanctions relief under extreme pressure from Netanyahu and from the war hawks here in the United States who want this war to continue and want to continue bombing Iran and engaging in more war crimes. As Brett Erickson writes, it certainly appears as though negotiations have entirely fallen apart at this point. Key issues seem to revolve around upfront compensation to Iran in the form of sanctions relief and/or asset freezing alongside Lebanon. To be clear, it is entirely delusional for Washington to think Iran would temporarily open the strait without significant upfront compensation. Now, talking about Lebanon, I don't want to ignore the travesties that are happening right there. In the past 72 hours, Israel has killed 9 paramedics in roughly 72 hours. Here are some of their faces right here. According to Lebanon's health sector figures, now updated after the killing of additional paramedics in the last 48 hours, 125 healthcare workers have been killed, 273 wounded, 149 attacks on the healthcare sector, 142 ambulances targeted, 32 medical centers destroyed, 16 hospitals forced out of service, 221 ambulance crews attacked. And here's just a photo of an individual, Ali Mohammed Hamoud, a paramedic with the Civil Defense First Responders, was killed. 2 of his colleagues were wounded. And I want to use this platform here at the Midas Touch Network to highlight these atrocities, to highlight the genocide in Gaza, to highlight what's happening in Lebanon, the mass murdering and the war crimes being committed there. And of course, call out Hamas, of course, call out Hezbollah as terroristic organizations, but also reflect on the innocents who are killed at the hands of Netanyahu. It's absolutely disgusting. We're going to always use the platform here to call it out. In addition, we should talk about, while Donald Trump's out there claiming there's deals and then no deals, then posting memes of missiles and then saying, and posting weird memes of himself killing Iranians and engaging in more war crimes, as Donald Trump's flip-flopping back and forth, showing what a pathetic individual he is and that he can't lead at all. Iran over this weekend held the meeting with Oman again. Iran and Oman held talks on joint governance and security coordination over passage through the Strait of Hormuz. You see right here Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister for International Affairs, Kazem Garibati, according to Fars News. The outlet shared photos of the meeting between the two delegations, led on Oman's side by its foreign minister. Notably, Oman's foreign minister was the original mediator back in February who had negotiated a deal between the United States and Iran, and when the deal was made, Trump and Netanyahu then invaded Iran. So it's also notable right now, as we were close to getting a deal, that's often when the Trump regime and Netanyahu do their invasions, right when there's a deal that's basically a deal in principle that is announced. And it should be noted, like when Trump's like, well, Iran's going to give me the Strait of Hormuz and they're going to let us control. No, they're not. They're never going to give you the Strait of Hormuz. They believe they won the war, and they did. America lost the war. You lost. You're a loser, Donald. They took over the Strait of Hormuz. The
He
Islamic
loved calling him a
Republic stayed in
loser.
power. The IRGC entrenched its power. It even has more hardliners right now. They won. You lost. So that's the dynamic of what's taking place right now. And I think, as you said, to the winner goes the spoils. They won the war. And so you see right here, just over this weekend, the outlet shared photos of the meeting between the two delegations. The discussions focused on the security and national sovereignty of the Strait's coastal states under international law, and comes as terms around control over the Strait of Hormuz is apparently something that Trump keeps on talking about. Separately, the IRGC Navy announced that 33 vessels, including oil tankers, container ships, and other commercial ships, passed through the Strait of Hormuz in the past 24 hours. After obtaining permission and security coordination from the IRGC. The IRGC said it has smart control measures over Hormuz, which has intensified following insecurity caused by the aggression of the U.S. terroristic army, is what they said. And it wouldn't be an international update right now if we didn't reflect on what's happening in Cuba right now. The Trump regime poised to invade Cuba. The propaganda by the United States is already taken off. You have the Trump regime going after Hassan Piker with its regime media outlet Fox News. Federal officials have served subpoenas to Marxist political influencer, that's how Fox News refers to him, Hassan Piker, and Code Pink co-founder Susan Medea Benjamin as part of a wider investigation into whether U.S. organizations and leaders violated U.S. laws and sanctions in supporting Cuba's communist regime, Fox News Digital has learned. By the way, I don't think Hassan Piker even stayed at the hotel there. That MAGA influencer guy who does those weird videos where he goes to Minnesota and harasses the schools, I think that guy was one of the guys who was there. Hassan Piker, I don't even think went, but Hassan Piker was like, so you're going after me? He goes, the American government would rather try to criminalize delivering aid to a country we've starved than punishing the Epstein class. To try to starve the Cuban people. We could have a conversation about the Cuban regime and the brutal dictatorship of the risen tons of rice from China via the port of Havana, part of the 60,000-ton aid package, as a harsh U.S. blockade fuels the island's worst economic crisis in decades. In China, their foreign ministry and their embassy explained that we delivered this critical aid to Cuba, demonstrating the fraternity and solidarity between China and Cuba. Also, for the past few months and accelerating recently as the Trump regime increasingly threatens to invade Cuba, Cuba has intensified military activity across the entire country, with patrols accompanied by drones and the positioning of artillery throughout the territory, as they believe they're going to need to defend themselves from a Trump invasion. By the way, here's how Jeremy Corbyn discusses the situation that's taking place.
Can't we say to the audience in the USA, do everything you can, everything, to force the Trump administration to lift the blockade and allow the oil to come into Cuba so that Cuba can at least keep the lights on. As you've observed, there's no lights around here.
Right.
Oh, why they're in
Those
the
lights
dark?
are battery lights from our phones, and I don't know how long they're going to last.
Yeah, well,
But you
that's,
see, it's beautiful, this darkness, but and we're enjoying it. But just imagine, you'd come home from work, you get home, like 6, and then by 7 o'clock it's dark, and there's a power cut, and that's it.
And not to mention how it's a death sentence for some people.
There's no cooking, there's no television, there's nothing.
But also no dialysis.
Medical, yeah.
Dialysis can't happen, anything else. All the stuff that we absolutely take for granted because we've got electricity is not available to ordinary, decent people in Cuba.
Oh, wow.
Come on, it's just
They need to
wrong, isn't it?
detox. Get off of
So in
that.
sum, while you have Donald Trump attacking...
Stop eating that meat. It ain't meat. It's flesh. I was listening to Sally. What's his name? He used to play basketball. And he talked about how he had to change his eating habits when he realized he was eating flesh. They have altered the meat. Anything ground, steak like sirloin, they have altered the meat. I meant to show y'all that. He even talked about all the bubbles in his urine. You know, he didn't know that his liver was failing. A lot of things they do not tell us when we go to the doctor. We think the doctor is the end all, and the doctor is big pharma. I'm going to say that. They're in business to keep you sick and not tell you to detox. I'm going to say it as much as possible until it clicks in. But that's the part of the mind manipulation in the food that they have created, is to alter your memory. Trick us in our head. And now all we know is go to the doctor, go to the doctor, go to the doctor. Go to the doctor, go to the doctor. And we got to get back in our heads what they was teaching us the first go around with the COVID-19. Natural supplements. Natural supplements. That's all they was able to say when they did not have a cocktail that these scientists that done came up missing, who knows the truth of what they did and have been doing in all aspects. Now they missing. I wonder why. Better wake up.
Allies attacking NATO, attacking Taiwan, attacking everybody. You have the rest of the world uniting against Donald Trump. Trump looking increasingly weak and pathetic. And,
Very.
From the first video I showed you of Venezuela to what's happening in Cuba, to NATO countries rejecting Donald Trump's ultimatum, to Iran asserting itself and having meetings with Oman, and they're in control of these negotiations, not Trump. Trump wavers each way. Netanyahu calls them.
Yeah, I
and then
need
when
more
there's
than
supposed
just.
to be a
I
deal
need
with
more than
Iran,
that.
in order to end this war, then all of a sudden Donald Trump's like, no, we're not doing a deal
That
anymore.
aged
And then they start to lie about
garlic
what the
is very
terms are
helpful.
after all the Middle East countries were very
All
aware
of
of what the
oregano,
terms
very
were
helpful.
that Donald Trump previously
Sea moss,
said they were
very
with Iran,
helpful.
that the Middle East countries gave him the green light. And then Donald Trump thought he was going to cajole the Middle East countries and say,
Magnesium,
well, you'll join the
very
Abraham
helpful.
Accords, right, and engage in bilateral negotiations with Israel. And they're like, no, we're not doing that until there's a two-state solution and until the genocide in
Clove
Gaza ends.
tea,
We're
very
not
helpful.
doing the Abraham Accords. Stop trying
Got
to
to
push
get
that
those
on us, man.
parasites out your body.
That's
Whether,
the world.
listen, that's the problem with us. We so, I don't know what word to call us. We so stuck in tradition, I guess. I don't know. But everything that we think is on taste, we don't give shit about our health. That's why most folk now on that GLP-1 or whatever that stuff is, I'm scared to even entertain it because it's trending and it's too fast and everybody's on it and everybody's losing. And it may be, helpful. I don't know, but I don't trust it. The government. They said too many people didn't take the COVID-19 shot, so now they got to put it in our food, put it here, put it there, put it in some of the bottled waters, all of this crazy stuff. So it's like everybody on it, everybody talking about it, everybody doing it, and now or they done snuck something in there. That's how I feel. I ain't gonna even lie. I feel like everybody on it, everybody trying it, everybody losing weight, everybody doing this, and it's like, what is your immune system doing though? Well, whatever they planning for us, if it happens, what's your immune system like though? Because the key to majority of everything that they done put out there to take us out is only thing that is going to save us is if we have a healthy immune system. So where does that leave us with this? Everybody on it. Everybody. They don't have insurance. I remember Trump and Dr. Oz was going to come over with another form of weight loss and then downplay Ozempic. You know, I remember that in the Oval Office, they was going to come up with their own weight loss to stop people from taking Ozempic. How do we know that that's not it? Yeah, we gotta think smarter. We gotta think wiser. And what's healthy for us, we don't want to touch it. We rather say, now I'm going to the doctor. I trust my doctor. Shit, that doctor ain't taking half the shit that they writing prescriptions for you, because that's how they make money, giving us these prescriptions, and don't want to tell us that majority of our ailments comes from the parasites that's in our body. All you have to do is deworm with natural supplements. They wouldn't make no money if they told us the truth. But we gonna skip with it and run with it and wonder why one medicine we take help this one but create another problem. And every time we take the natural supplements, all of them, we don't have side effects. How is that? And no disrespect to the doctors and nurses, and it's just, that's the truth. Everything we've been taught has been crafted. It's in the majority of the stuff is in the Epstein files. That's been passed down. This stuff been going on before some of us was even born.
Right now that we live in. Want to keep you posted so you learn everything that's going on. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching. Love this video? Support.
Yeah, it scares me. And I don't like nothing that start at one price and then go up after you done got hooked on it and you done lost a pound or two. Now the price is going to be up, knowing that they taking people's jobs. Ain't no job secure. Not one. Not even if you're an entrepreneur. If ain't nobody got money to spend money, then you ain't gonna make none. Small businesses fail every time we go into this type situation. Trump wet panties. Every time we go into one of these situations, and I'm going to say this is the worst, small businesses don't make it. So if you think that you straight because you're an entrepreneur, oh, okay. Real estate, yeah, but if you can't afford it to buy a house, But okay. Y'all ain't gonna believe me until it's too late. And then y'all gonna remember some of what I said. And then you're gonna be like, hey, Auntie Fee mentioned some of that. He got caught. Which one?
Back to that in a moment. You know, there are weeks in Washington where the noise is just noise. Posturing, press conferences, people talking past each other. And then there are weeks where something shifts, where you can feel the ground move beneath the institutions that hold this country together. This was one of those weeks. Now look, you know, there are weeks in Washington where the noise is just noise. Posturing, press conferences, people talking past each other. And then there are weeks where something shifts, where you can feel the ground move beneath the institutions that hold this country together. This was one of those weeks. Now look, I've been around long enough to know that when members of a president's own party start saying no, publicly, loudly, and with conviction, that's not theater. That's a signal. On Thursday, May 21st, House Republican leaders pulled the war powers vote from the floor because they knew they were going to lose it. Their own members, Fitzpatrick, Barrett, others, were ready to cross. The speaker didn't let democracy happen on
Hit
that
the like
floor.
button, y'all.
And we'll come back to that in a moment. The same week, Senate Republicans walked away from Donald Trump's $70 billion immigration package, refused to advance it because they could not stomach a $1.776 billion fund that could put taxpayer money in the hands of people convicted of assaulting police officers
Thank you.
on January 6th.
Thank you.
Tom Tillis, a Republican from North Carolina, called it stupid on stilts. Mitch McConnell called it utterly stupid, morally wrong.
Thank you.
Let me tell you something. When Mitch McConnell issues the public statement using the words morally wrong about a Republican president's policy, the tectonic plates are moving.
Absolutely. Let's go.
And
Hey,
here's
Janet.
what I want you to think about
Hey,
as we
Sadie.
go through this together. The question isn't whether Donald Trump had a bad week. Presidents have bad weeks. I certainly had mine. The question, the real question, is whether the United States Congress remembers that it is a co-equal branch of government. Whether the system designed by Madison and Hamilton and the rest of them still has the capacity to self-correct. Because right now, with an approval rating at 37%, a war past its 60-day legal limit, gas above $4.50 a gallon, and Japan and China pulling back from American debt, this isn't just politics. This is a stress test. And how we respond to it will tell us something important about who we still are. Now, to understand why this week matters, you've got to understand what led up to it, because none of this happened in a vacuum. Since January 2025, Donald Trump has been consolidating executive power at a pace we haven't seen in modern American history. He's used primary challenges like a hammer. Bill Cassidy, a two-term senator from Louisiana, lost his seat on May 16th because he voted his conscience after January 6th. Thomas Massey, a principal conservative from Kentucky, gone. And then came the Cornyn endorsement, backing Ken Paxton over a sitting Republican senator in Texas, his own people. The message was clear: loyalty or destruction. Now here's the thing, that works until it doesn't, and we'll come back to that. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched strikes on Iran. We are now past the 60-day window the War Powers Resolution gives the president before Congress must authorize the use of force. Gas has gone from $3.18 a gallon to $4.52. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve has dropped 17 million barrels. And the president told reporters, and this is a direct quote, "I don't think about Americans' financial situation,"
Horrible.
when asked if hardship was motivating him toward peace. Then on May 18th, the DOJ announced a $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund created from a settlement of Trump's own lawsuit against the IRS. The president sued for $10 billion, settled with himself, and created a fund
Settled
that could
with
compensate
himself.
people convicted of assaulting police officers.
How can a president settle with himself on a crime that he initiated? It just blows my mind.
On January 6th. Let me say that again. Tax weaponization fund created from a settlement.
But no 40 acres and a mule. No rep.
$1 billion anti-weaponization fund created from a settlement of Trump's own
hate is
lawsuit
real.
against the IRS. The president sued for $10 billion, settled with himself, and created a fund that could compensate people convicted of assaulting police officers on January 6th. Let me say that again. Taxpayer money flowing from a self-negotiated settlement to people found guilty in courts of law. His approval sits at 37%.
It needs to be less than
Among
that.
white voters without a college degree is bedrock.
You
From a
should.
self-negotiated settlement to people found guilty in courts of law. His approval sits at 37%. Among white voters without a college degree is bedrock. Disapproval has crossed 50% for the first time. The CNN poll shows he's gone from plus 26 net approval with that group to minus 2 in 15 months. We've got to remember, this is the backdrop. A president weakened by war, weakened by economics, weakened by his own choices. And that's the soil from which this revolt grew. Now let me walk you through exactly what happened, because the details here matter more than the headlines. On Tuesday, May 20th, the United States Senate voted to advance a war powers resolution on the Iran conflict. 4 Republicans crossed over. Bill Cassidy, who just lost his primary on the 16th, joined by 3 others. And 3 GOP senators were absent. That was 8 attempts that the measure cleared a procedural hurdle. The Constitution says Congress declares war. We are 82 days into a military conflict launched without that declaration. Then the resolution came to the House. Gregory Meeks, the ranking Democrat on foreign affairs, told reporters, and I'm quoting him, "We had the votes without question, and they knew it." Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican from Pennsylvania, confirmed publicly he would vote yes. Tom Barrett from Michigan was in the same position. Jared Golden of Maine, the one Democrat who voted no last week on a 212 to 212 tie, said he'd flip to yes. The math was undeniable. So what did Speaker Johnson do? He pulled the vote, canceled it, sent everybody home without letting democracy happen on that floor. Steve Scalise told reporters it was about absences. Johnson wouldn't answer questions at all, just walked out of the chamber. Now here's the second thread. On May 18th, the DOJ announced a $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund, created from a settlement of Trump's own $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS over leaked tax returns. The president sued, the president's own attorney general settled, and the money flows from the judgment fund, taxpayer dollars, into a compensation account for people who claim they were wrongly prosecuted under Biden.
Under
That
Biden
includes
only.
people convicted of assaulting police officers on
Only under Biden. Y'all catch that?
The president sued, the president's own attorney general settled, and the money flows from the judgment fund, taxpayer dollars, into a compensation account for people who claim they were wrongly prosecuted under Biden. That includes people convicted of assaulting police officers on January 6th. Tom Tillis called it stupid on stilts and a payout for punks.
Oh,
McConnell said, direct quote, "So the nation's top law enforcement official is asking for a slush fund to pay people who assault cops? Utterly stupid, morally wrong, take your pick." Brian Fitzpatrick and Tom Suozzi introduced the Bipartisan Transparency for American Taxpayers Act to block all federal funding for the account. And Senate Republicans, angry enough to walk out, refused to advance Trump's $70 billion immigration package, blowing his June 1st deadline entirely. Let me tell you something about leadership. I spent 8 years in the Oval Office, and I learned this. The decisions that define your presidency aren't always the big dramatic ones. Sometimes they're the procedural ones. The choice to let a vote happen or to kill it. The choice to confront a problem or to hide from it. Mike Johnson made a choice on Thursday. He had a constitutional resolution on his floor, a measure invoking the War Powers Act of 1973.
He's speaking to the people. He's
which
speaking
gives
to
Congress
everybody. He's
authority
speaking to
over
you,
military
Sadie.
conflicts.
He's trying to inform you of what's going on that in the world that is not being told to us by the media. So he's speaking to you. He's trying to inform you. Okay? He's speaking to Joe. He's trying to inform her. Everybody, Janet, everybody. He's trying to tell you what's going on that Trump don't want you to know. Hit the like button and hit the Cash App. Support the
His
platform.
own members were ready to cross party lines. Let me tell you something about leadership. I spent 8 years in the Oval Office, and I learned this. The decisions that define your presidency aren't always the big dramatic ones. Sometimes they're the procedural ones. The choice to let a vote happen or to kill it. The choice to confront a problem or to hide from it. Mike Johnson made a choice on Thursday. He had a constitutional resolution on his floor, a measure invoking the War Powers Act of 1973, which gives Congress authority over military conflicts. His own members were ready to cross party lines. And rather than let the people's representatives cast their votes and accept the outcome,
Same to you, West Side Girl.
Now look, I disagreed fiercely with Newt Gingrich on almost everything. We shut the government down over our differences. But Newt let votes happen, even votes he might lose, because he understood that the House floor is sacred ground for democratic deliberation. Johnson's decision wasn't about procedure. It was about protecting a president from the embarrassment of bipartisan rebuke on a war that 56% of Americans oppose and 61% say has done more harm than good. Hakeem Jeffries called it cowardly. I'd call it something worse. I'd call it a failure of institutional responsibility. Then there's John Thune. After Todd Blanche spent hours behind closed doors trying to sell Republican senators on this anti-weaponization fund, Thune let the Senate adjourn without resolution. He said he hoped the administration left with an appreciation for the depth of feeling on the issue. That's diplomatic language for, we're not doing this. And here's what stands out. Tillis, McConnell, Fitzpatrick, Cassidy, these are not liberal insurgents. These are conservative Republicans who decided that institutional credibility matters more than presidential loyalty. Tillis said, compensating people who assaulted police officers is the definition of tyranny. McConnell came off the bench with language he almost never uses publicly. Fitzpatrick teamed with a Democrat to draft legislation. And how did Trump respond? He went on Truth Social Friday morning and called Tillis someone screwing the Republican Party. Called him a quitter. That's the cycle. Dissent, then punishment. And yet, they dissented anyway. That tells you something about where the pressure has reached. Now I want to step back from the personalities, because this isn't ultimately about Trump or Tillis or Johnson. This is about whether American institutions can still do their job. And right now, I've got to be honest with you. There are warning signs everywhere. Start with war power.
Okay, say to Stewart, what do you mean? His audience for the speech. I don't understand where you're going with what you're saying. What are you talking about? His audience for the speech. What does that mean? What exactly does that mean? Because what he's saying, it ain't about an audience. It ain't about a red or a blue. It's not. So what are you talking about? Bye, Sadie. Y'all say bye to Sadie. He for the people, Sadie. Wake up, lady. Bye. You too slow. You too slow. Have a nice day. Y'all say bye. Y'all won't ever see her again unless she get another page. Now you stuck on the audience. It's to the people. Slow bunny. It's to the people. Where have you been? You haven't been here because everybody who's been over here knows who he's speaking to. Yeah. Oh, so you've been listening to what is it called? Propaganda. And you stuck. Yeah, bye. I ain't in the mood for you. I don't even want your presence.
The Constitution gives Congress, not the president,
Yeah.
the
Go somewhere
authority to
else where
commit
they
this
can lie
nation
to
to
you.
war. The War Powers Resolution in 1970.
If you're confused, this ain't the place to be because I don't feel like going back teaching folk. My lights ain't up. I ain't doing nothing extra. If you have questions for me, hit my Cash App. If not, don't put no questions in my comments.
Three says if a president deploys forces, called him a quitter. That's the cycle. Dissent, then punishment. And yet, they dissented anyway. That tells you something about where the pressure has reached. Now I want to step back from the personalities, because this isn't ultimately about Trump or Tillis or Johnson. This is about whether American institutions can still do their job. And right now, I've got to be honest with you. There are warning signs everywhere. Start with war powers. The Constitution gives Congress, not the president, the authority to commit this nation to war. The War Powers Resolution in 1973 says if a president deploys forces without a declaration of war, Congress must authorize the action within 60 days, or the troops come home. We are past 80 days. The White House argues the ceasefire suspended the clock. But on the same day Johnson pulled the House vote, Trump posted on social media telling military leaders to be prepared to go forward with a full, large-scale assault of Iran on a moment's notice. You cannot simultaneously claim the clock isn't running and threaten to restart it. When a speaker refuses to allow a vote on war powers, not because the resolution is unconstitutional, not because it lacks support, but because it would pass, that is a dereliction of Congress's most fundamental obligation. We've got to remember what the founders understood. The power to send young Americans into combat is the most consequential power any government possesses. It cannot belong to one person alone. Then there's the rule of law. When the Department of Justice creates a $1.776 billion fund from a self-settled presidential lawsuit, and that fund could compensate people found guilty in federal courts, including those who beat police officers with flagpoles, the integrity of the entire justice system erodes. Todd Blanche says commissioners will consider a claimant's conduct. He appoints all 5 commissioners. That's not accountability, that's theater. And here's what people aren't talking about enough: the economic signal. Japan dumped $47 billion in treasuries in March alone. China reduced holdings to their lowest level since 2008. Overall foreign holdings dropped from $9.49 trillion to $9.25 trillion in 1 month. That's not partisan. That's the world pricing in American dysfunction. When your allies sell your debt because they're worried about your stability, that's an institutional crisis that transcends any single policy. Here's the honest truth about political strategy. Control and popularity are not the same thing. And right now, Donald Trump controls his party's primaries, but is losing the country. Look at the numbers. The Quinnipiac poll released May 20th puts his overall approval at 34%. His economic approval, which used to be his strongest issue, is at 33%, the lowest of either term. The NPR/PBS/Marist poll from May 6th has him at 37%, with a 10-point Democratic lead on the generic congressional ballot. Among independents, 70% disapprove of his economic management, 55% blame him directly for gas prices. And here's the number that should alarm every Republican strategist in Washington. Among white voters without a college degree, his bedrock, Republican support for his economic handling has dropped 15 net points since February 2025. Now, Trump won his primaries this week. Cassidy's gone, Massey's gone. He endorsed Paxton over Cornyn in Texas. The base responds to loyalty tests. But Don Bacon, a Republican retiring from Nebraska, who spent 30 years in the Air Force, said something that should haunt the party. You don't want to have a totally loyal party that's in the minority. And that's maybe where we're headed. And this is where things start to get complicated. Marco Rubio goes on NBC and says Cuba hosts Russian and Chinese intelligence presence 90 miles from American soil, which is true and is a genuine security concern. But the president has spent years cultivating warm rhetoric toward Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. So your own Secretary of State is framing Russia and China as adversarial intelligence threats, while the president treats their leaders as partners. Republican candidates in swing districts cannot hold both positions simultaneously and survive. The Fitzpatrick model may be the only survival path for purple district Republicans. Bipartisan legislation, institutional independence, willingness to break publicly. But with Trump primarying anyone who dissents, the incentive structure pushes toward loyalty. And loyalty to a president at 34% approval is a strategy for the minority. Now, I've been asked to predict the future before, usually by reporters looking for a headline. But let me share with you how I see this playing out, based on what I know about how Washington actually works under pressure. Scenario 1, and this is the most likely in the short term, is temporary revolt followed by quiet capitulation. Congress comes back from Memorial Day recess. The immigration bill gets reworked with minor concessions. Blanche restructures the anti-weaponization fund with just enough guardrails to give senators cover, and the War Powers Resolution dies procedurally when Johnson finds enough absences or rule changes to kill it. Trump declares victory. The cycle continues. I've seen this pattern before. Pressure builds, release valves open, then close again. Scenario 2 is escalating fracture. This happens if gas stays above $4.50, and right now AAA has it at $4.55 nationally. If the Iran conflict produces American casualties beyond the 6 soldiers killed by that drone strike, if polling continues collapsing among working class voters heading into November, under those conditions the revolt deepens. More Republicans break ranks. The War Powers Resolution passes both chambers. A constitutional confrontation over presidential war authority reaches the courts. Robert Redfield is warning that Ebola will spread to 3 more African countries and become, his words, a very significant pandemic. If a public health emergency arrives while institutional capacity is degraded, you have compound crisis. Scenario 3, the most hopeful and least likely, is genuine institutional reassertion. Congress declares itself a co-equal branch. It demands authorization for the Iran conflict. It blocks the anti-weaponization fund through legislation. It forces transparency on clemency decisions. This would require sustained political courage of a kind that history suggests is rare, but that this week showed is not impossible. And we'll come back to what that means in a moment. Because there's an economic dimension here that nobody can afford to ignore.
Right.
When Japan and China simultaneously pull back from American debt, when the Strategic Petroleum Reserve keeps dropping, when 81% of Americans say gas prices strain their household budget, that's not a political problem anymore. That's a stability problem. And stability problems don't wait for elections. Let me close with something I think about a lot.
He
Something
thinks
I
he
learned not from
controls.
policy
He's losing the
briefings
grip.
or
Absolutely.
intelligence reports, but from decades of watching this extraordinary, imperfect experiment we call American democracy actually work. The system was never designed to prevent conflict. Madison understood that. Hamilton understood that. They designed a system to channel conflict productively, to force it through institutions that slow it down, deliberate on it, and produce accountability. The genius isn't harmony. The genius is structured disagreement. And this week, just maybe, some of that structure held. When Tom Tillis, a conservative Republican from North Carolina, stands before cameras and calls a presidential initiative the definition of tyranny, that's not chaos. That's a senator doing his job. When Brian Fitzpatrick teams with Tom Suozzi across the aisle to draft legislation, that's not rebellion. That's Congress functioning as designed. When Mitch McConnell, a man who calculates every word, says utterly stupid, morally wrong,
That's a lot.
that's an
That's
institution
major.
remembering what it's for. Now, I don't celebrate Republican division as Democratic victory. That would be short-sighted and frankly wrong. What matters isn't whether one party or the other has a bad week. What matters is whether the system still contains people willing to risk their careers for constitutional principle. Whether Congress can still say no to a president of either party when he overreaches. Whether we still believe that taxpayer dollars belong to the public, that war requires authorization, and that no one is above the accountability that democratic governance demands. I've lived through government shutdowns, impeachment, wars authorized and unauthorized, balanced budgets and broken ones. And here's what I know. America corrects course. Not always quickly, not always gracefully, but the capacity is there in the design, in the people, and in moments like this one. The question isn't whether Donald Trump is humiliated. Presidents recover from bad weeks. The question is whether the Congress of the United States remembers what it's for. And this week, imperfectly, incompletely, but unmistakably, some of them started to remember. That's not the end of the story, but it might be the beginning of something that matters.
Okay, y'all. I need for y'all to hit the like button. Where we going? Where we going? Double tap the face of your screen. Hit the like button, please. Let me see which one is next.
Now look, I want you to sit with me for a minute, because what's happening right now in this country, this week, this very moment, is one of those periods in American life where everything seems to be moving at once, and none of it in a straight line. You've got a war with Iran that started in February, a ceasefire that's barely
I don't
holding
know
together
if this is the
with
one we
tape
listened
and
to
good
the day
wishes.
before. Y'all hit the like
Gulf
button.
leaders calling our president, begging him not to launch a Tuesday strike, and the White House announcing a deal is close. You've got the Vice President of the United States privately questioning whether his own defense secretary is telling the president the truth about how the war is going. You've got a terror operative mapping the home of Ivanka Trump
Oh
in
yeah, we heard
Florida
this one. We heard
as
this one.
payback for a killing we are.
We heard this one.
Learn one thing about diplomacy. You know, folks, I've been doing this a long time. And in all my years in the White House and negotiating tables from Oslo to Camp David, I've learned one thing about diplomacy that never changes. Words between nations are not tweets. They're commitments. They carry the weight of American credibility. Now look, on Saturday night, the President of the United States.
I need for y'all to get the likes up, please. This is the one I missed yesterday. Another one of the ones I missed yesterday. Double tap the face of your phone. Get the likes up, please.
Told the world that a peace deal with Iran had been largely negotiated. He said the Strait of Hormuz would reopen. He said final details would come shortly. And within hours, Iran's own state media said his claims were inconsistent with reality. His own party fractured on live television. Former Secretary Pompeo called it a surrender. Senator Cruz said he was deeply concerned. The White House told Pompeo to shut his mouth. This is the same president who stood before the American people 3 months ago and demanded unconditional surrender from Tehran. 13 service members have died since then. Gas prices have spiked. NATO wouldn't join. And now we're negotiating a memorandum that may give Iran billions in frozen assets, leave their nuclear program untouched for 60 days, and let them keep control of the most important shipping lane on Earth. That's not a deal collapsing in 13 hours. That's credibility collapsing in real time. Now look, to understand what happened this weekend, you've got to understand the road that brought us here. This started in 2018, when this president tore up the JCPOA, the nuclear agreement that limited enrichment, required inspections, and didn't cost a single American life. Fast forward to 2025. The president sends a letter to Iran's supreme leader demanding a new deal. Gives them 60 days. The deadline passes. Israel strikes. Then America strikes. And just like that, we're in a war that the president told the American people would last 4 to 5 weeks. It's been nearly 3 months. 13 American service members are dead. Over 300
Way more than
wounded.
that.
NATO allies refuse to join. Gas prices spiked past $4. The Strait of Hormuz was shut down by Iranian forces, and Pakistan, not our traditional allies, became the mediator. The rhetoric at the start was unconditional surrender. And now, 3 months later, what are we looking at? A one-page memorandum of understanding, not a treaty, not a binding agreement, a framework that may release $25 billion in frozen Iranian assets and defers the nuclear question for 60 more days. The gap between the rhetoric and the reality, that's not just a policy problem, that's a credibility problem. When you train the public to expect total victory and deliver something else entirely, you teach them not to trust their own government. Let me tell you something. The first rule of diplomatic documents is what's not in the agreement matters as much as what is. The president announced Saturday that a deal had been largely negotiated, but Iran's state media called his claims
False.
incomplete
Lies.
and inconsistent with reality. They said the Strait of Hormuz remains under the monopoly of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Who has paid the
reported
tolls?
terms, a 60-day ceasefire. Iran commits to relinquish enriched uranium in exchange for approximately $25 billion in frozen assets and lifting of the U.S. blockade. But nuclear negotiations? Deferred. No immediate restrictions on enrichment. No facility closures. No dismantling of the ballistic missile program. The JCPOA that this president tore up in 2018 actually limited enrichment to 3.67%. It required IAEA inspections. It didn't involve a war, and it didn't cost us $25 billion. When supporters of the original agreement point out that we went to war, lost American lives, spent over $12 billion in direct military costs, and arrived at terms potentially more favorable to Iran than what was available for free in 2015, that comparison deserves an honest answer. Now, here's the honest truth about leadership during a crisis. It's not about what you say. It's about discipline, consistency, the ability to hold your team together while the world watches. This president skipped his own son's wedding, said he needed to remain at the White House, but reports indicate he wasn't in the Situation Room. He was posting on Truth Social.
Wow.
Multiple times. Over 900 words
Piss poor
in a
president.
single day. CNN reported that his own officials
And
multiple
probably sitting on the
times,
toilet.
over 900 words, and in the Situation Room, he was posting on, said he needed to remain at the White House. But reports
Scared
indicate
to go outside.
he wasn't in the Situation Room. He was posting on Truth Social multiple times.
Scared to go outside. Scared to go to his son's wedding in the Bahamas. Just scared. Yeah, he saw a ghost. The one-legged ghost. Yeah. From Iran. He alive.
Over 900 words in a single day. CNN reported that his own officials privately acknowledged His public commentary was detrimental to talks. Iran International reported that U.S. negotiators told Iran to ignore Trump's social media posts, that they were mainly for domestic media optics. Our own negotiating
Media
team
optics.
telling our Iran International reported that U.S. negotiators told Iran to ignore Trump's social media
Our
posts,
people.
that they were mainly for domestic media optics. Our own negotiating team telling our adversary, don't listen to our president. And the fractures? His own White House communications director told Pompeo to shut his stupid mouth.
Wow.
Cruz said he was deeply concerned. Graham said Saturday it would pour gasoline on conflicts, then reversed himself Sunday, calling it brilliant. When I was negotiating at Camp David, I never let my team publicly disintegrate in front of the world because our adversaries were watching. Now I want to pivot to something that might seem unrelated, but isn't. While the country was consumed by this Iran spectacle, other things were happening quietly. On Friday, the Department of Justice scrubbed its website of news releases related to January 6 prosecutions. Hundreds of them, charges, convictions, sentencings, gone. Last month, the DOJ asked a federal appeals court to vacate the seditious conspiracy convictions of Oath Keepers and Proud Boys leaders. On Thursday, the court granted it. Friday, the cases were dismissed. On Monday, they announced a $1.776 billion fund to compensate those who feel unjustly prosecuted. The acting Attorney General has not ruled out payments to people convicted of assaulting police officers. Enrique Tarrio, sentenced to 22 years for seditious conspiracy, says he expects $2 to $5 million. Also Friday, HUD narrowed the definition of assistance animals, stripping protections for emotional support animals in federally regulated housing. Veterans with PTSD, disabled tenants, people whose mental health depends on that accommodation, all affected.
Yeah, they won't.
They did this in the dark
Depopulation.
because they knew the light.
Just like the guy that they say, quote unquote, will be having meltdowns and breakdowns near the White House. They used him. He was already mental. Already. It's process of elimination. That's what's going on. That's
regulated housing. Veterans with PTSD.
He don't care nothing about none of that. They did it in the dark. Yeah. They changed the wording on it in the big, black, beautiful bill.
Officers. Enrique Tarrio, sentenced to 22 years for his conspiracy convictions of Oath Keepers and Proud Boys leaders. On Thursday, the court granted it. Friday, the cases were dismissed. On Monday, they announced a $1.776 billion fund to compensate those who feel unjustly prosecuted. The acting Attorney General has not ruled out payments to people convicted of assaulting police officers. Enrique Tarrio, sentenced to 22 years for seditious conspiracy, says he expects $2 to $5 million. Also Friday, HUD narrowed the definition of assistance animals, stripping protections for emotional support animals in federally regulated housing. Veterans with PTSD, disabled tenants, people whose mental health depends on that accommodation, all affected. They did this in the dark because they knew the light wouldn't be kind to it. When an administration simultaneously erases accountability for political violence and strips protections from its most vulnerable citizens, that's not governance. That's consolidation. This Iran announcement landed on the same weekend that the DOJ purged January 6th records, dismissed seditious
Deleted 'em.
conspiracy convictions, and HUD gutted disability protections.
Yeah, they
That's
hid it.
not coincidence. That's strategy. The foreign policy spectacle absorbs every camera, every headline, every hour of cable news, and everything else slides underneath. Iranian state-linked media reported that U.S. negotiators privately told Iran that Trump's public posts were mainly for U.S. media optics. If true, it means our own government is performing for the domestic audience while telling adversaries that the performance is meaningless. That's not diplomacy. That's theater. And when a foreign adversary openly declares that your president is performing rather than governing, American credibility evaporates. Meanwhile, viral AI-generated videos from Iranian-linked accounts are flooding social media, depicting Trump surrendering, bowing to Iranian leadership.
They got to tell us what our president is doing.
This isn't just propaganda. It's a reflection of how adversaries perceive American weakness when a president's words don't match reality. Let me tell you where I think this goes, and none of the scenarios are simple. First possibility, some version of this deal holds. The strait reopens, the ceasefire extends, but Iran retains de facto sovereignty over Hormuz. Its nuclear program survives largely intact. The IRGC emerges domestically strengthened.
That's why I don't play with lies, y'all.
Escalates
They be lying in our face.
is meaningless.
People believe it and
That's
spread
not
the lie.
diplomacy. That's theater. And when a
Acting
foreign
for
adversary
entertainment purposes.
openly declares that your president is performing rather than governing, American credibility evaporates. Meanwhile, viral AI-generated videos from Iranian-linked accounts are flooding social media.
Flooding.
Rather than governing,
And if you
American
replay them,
credibility evaporates.
no. Performance.
Meanwhile, viral AI-generated videos from Iranian-linked accounts are flooding social media, depicting Trump surrendering, bowing to Iranian leadership. This isn't just propaganda. It's a reflection of how adversaries perceive American weakness when a president's words don't match reality. Let me tell you where I think this goes, and none of the scenarios are simple. First possibility, some version of this deal holds. The strait reopens, the ceasefire extends, but Iran retains de facto sovereignty over Hormuz. Its nuclear program survives largely intact. The IRGC emerges domestically strengthened. Regional instability escalates because Hezbollah and Shia militias see Iran as having survived an American assault and come out stronger. That's not peace. That's a pause that advantages our adversary. Second possibility, the deal collapses entirely. Hostilities resume. More American casualties. Deeper economic pain. A president trapped between hawkish allies demanding escalation and a war-weary
A
public
president
told
stuck
this would be
between lies and yeah, he's stuck in between his shit ass lies. Yeah, that's why he stay funky.
presumed. More American casualties, deeper economic pain, a president trapped between
Oh yeah,
hawkish
no,
allies
get my lights up. I know you. I know. Yeah, ain't that preoccupied? Double tap the face of your screen. Hit those three dots at the top right corner. Big break. Iran has reportedly. Oh yeah, we know about the bounty on his head. It's 58. Y'all not gonna double tap the face of your screen? You're not gonna get my likes up? Are we ready to get the likes up back up? What we doing, good people? I need the likes up, or I can go back to enjoying my day. I'm trying to catch y'all up, but if y'all can't hit the like button, oh well. Only I would know the tea. Get the likes up.
demanding escalation, and a war-weary public told this would be over in 5 weeks. Third, Netanyahu acts unilaterally. If Israel strikes Iranian nuclear sites without American coordination, it fractures the U.S.-Israel relationship, escalates regional war, and demonstrates that America cannot hold its own coalition together. In every scenario, one thing remains constant. The lack of congressional involvement means the American people have no democratic voice
Hello, duo.
in decisions of war and peace. No treaty process, no Senate vote, an agreement that rests entirely on one man's social media posts rather than on institutional architecture, that is inherently fragile. And fragile agreements in the Middle East don't fail quietly. They fail dangerously. You know, folks, I've lived long enough to see America correct course before. After Vietnam, we rebuilt trust in civilian oversight. After Watergate, we strengthened the independence of the Justice Department. After every moment when our institutions were tested, the American people found a way back, not through anger, but through engagement. That's what I'm asking for tonight. Not despair, not cynicism, engagement. Demand transparency in foreign policy. Insist that Congress exercise its constitutional authority over war and peace. Protect the independence of the Justice Department. When criminal convictions decided by juries are erased overnight and public records are scrubbed, that's not justice reform, that's institutional capture. And defend your neighbors. The veteran with PTSD whose support animal just lost its legal protection. The disabled tenant whose accommodation was quietly eliminated on a Friday night. Here's what I believe. Democracy is not self-executing. It requires citizens who pay attention, who hold leaders accountable regardless of party, who refuse to accept that chaos is governance, that performance is policy, that loyalty to one man is more important than fidelity to the Constitution. The American people have never let me down when they had the facts, and I don't believe they're about to start now. But they've got to have the facts. That's on all of us.
Oh no. Where my likes at? I wasn't trying to hit that.
over in the Persian Gulf? Or is it? Now, if you believe Benjamin Netanyahu, it isn't. All of that coming up in the rest of the show. And 17 schoolgirls and 4 schoolboys murdered in their sleep by NATO drone attack in the province of Lugansk, which the Ukrainians claim is theirs, and therefore the citizens they murdered were theirs. But the Western media and politicians have pretended that it never even happened.
Just
It's all
lying.
coming up here on the mother of all
Just
talk shows.
lying.
Stay tuned.
Just lying.
War is over in the Persian Gulf, or is it?
If Bibi Netanyahu said it, you never know with these people. They just be lying. Where do I go from here? Guess who done lost their money, millions, to these fake Jews? Did y'all know that? Old boy done lost millions of dollars. He broke for trusting the fake Jewish people. Let me change that and put him in my title. Hold on. Get my likes up while I add this to it. Hold on. My. Can't trust them. That's kind of how Eddie Murphy, ex-wife, lost all her money. Hold on. I'm almost finished. I had to change up the title a little bit so I can get to oh boy. Netanyahu portrays himself as more imposing than Trump. I'm getting to Mayweather. Listen.
In trouble with his money again. The undefeated boxing champ just... Breaking news, Floyd Mayweather is in big trouble with his money again. The undefeated boxing champ just filed a lawsuit saying he got scammed out of $175 million by some guys he trusted, including his close friend, Jonah Recknix, and a few others tied to shady deals. And according to the lawsuit, by the way, TMZ is reporting all this, they tricked him with fake investments, stole cash from wire transfers,
Fake investment.
$100 million worth of jewelry. He only got back like $13 million, and even made his private jet and other stuff disappear without telling them. But here's the simple news version. Floyd handed over control of his cash and deals to these guys.
Made his what disappear?
Breaking news, Floyd Mayweather is in big trouble with his money again. The undefeated boxing champ just filed a lawsuit saying he got scammed out of $175 million by some guys he trusted, including his close friend, Jonah Recknix, and a few others tied to shady deals. And according to the lawsuit, by the way, TMZ is reporting all this, they tricked him with fake investments, stole cash from wire transfers, lowballed him on $100 million worth of jewelry. He only got back like $13 million, and even made his private jet and other stuff disappear without telling them. But here's the simple news version. Floyd handed over control of his cash and deals to these guys, and now he claims they ripped him off big time. He wants every penny back, plus extra punishment money. But here's the part, and yes, we are laughing hard at this one. Floyd spent years selling out hard for Israel. He visited the country
for Israel,
standing with them 100%, donated big money and supplies to their causes, including bulletproof vests and water, and even picked up awards like World Champion for Israel. He got super cozy with the same circle of guys who have...
So he was making deals with the devil.
The very people he was hyping up and supporting allegedly turned around and took him for $175 million. Classic.
Sold out to Israel.
You sold out for Israel, and they cleaned out your pockets. Floyd, the money man, got played like a rookie. Tough luck, champ. Maybe next time, read the fine print before you pick a team. This is nothing but laughable, and you deserve it. Breaking news, Floyd Mayweather is in big trouble with his money.
Can y'all believe this?
The undefeated boxing champ just filed a lawsuit saying he got scammed out of $175 million by some guys he trusted, including his close friend, Jonah Recknix, and a few others tied to shady deals. And according to the lawsuit, by the way, TMZ is reporting all this, they tricked him with fake investments, stole cash from wire transfers, lowballed him on $100 million worth of jewelry. He only got back like $13 million, and even made his private jet and other stuff disappear without telling them. But here's the simple
there you go.
Version.
Player got played. Yep, playing with Israel. Betting on Israel.
Big time.
Fake Israel.
Every penny back, plus extra punishment money. But here's the funny part, and yes, we are laughing hard at this one. Floyd spent years selling out hard for Israel. He visited the country, bragged about standing with them 100%, donated big money and supplies to their causes, including bulletproof vests and water.
That's enough for that one. Hold on. I gotta make a run right quick. I want to hear what Farrakhan said.
Check this out.
Iran is a nation of 90 million people that believe in the coming of the Mahdi. 90 million people who are ready to lay down their lives for al-Mahdi. That's right. They're beautiful people, the Iranians. You don't see them starting no war with nobody. Ask Mr. Trump. In the history of Iran, show me where they attacked some other nation trying to take their wealth as you do, as America does. Show it to me. See, when you know the truth, see, can't nobody punk you unless you just want to be a punk.
Check this out.
Iran is a nation of 90 million people that believe in the coming of the Mahdi. 90 million people who are ready to lay down their lives for Al Mahdi. That's right. They're beautiful people, the Iranians. You don't see them starting no war with nobody. That's correct. Ask Mr. Trump. Ask him. In the history of Iran, show me where they attacked some other nation trying to take their wealth as you do, as America does. Show it to me. Show it to me. See, when you know the truth, see, can't nobody punk you unless you just want to be a punk.
Check this out.
Iran is a nation of 90 million people that believe in the coming of the Mahdi. 90 million people who are ready to lay down their lives for Al Mahdi. That's right. They're beautiful people, the Iranians. You don't see them starting no war with nobody. That's correct. Right. Ask Mr. Trump. In the history of Iran, show me where they attacked some other nation trying to take their wealth as you do, as America does. Show it to me. See, when you know the truth, see, can't nobody punk you unless you just want to be a punk.
Check this out.
Iran is a nation of 90 million people that believe in the coming of the Mahdi. 90 million people who are ready to lay down their lives for Al Mahdi. That's right. They're beautiful people, the Iranians. You don't see them starting no war with nobody. That's correct. Right. Ask Mr. Trump. In the history of Iran, show me where they attacked some other nation trying to take their wealth.
They say we the bullies. Iran is not going to give up unless they get what they want. Yeah, they should have left them alone. Now they saying that the U.S. is gonna, yeah, it's gonna not be Israel. Gonna give up more. The deal is gonna be more in their favor.
Okay. What color is Jesus?
Hold on. Than it was when Obama did it.
They say his skin was like brass.
All right. So check this out. I want to give you two verses. Because your question was, you said that, well, it wasn't a question, it was a statement that Christ was a Jew, right?
Okay.
What color is Jesus?
They say his skin was like brass.
All right. So check this out. I want to give you two verses. Because your question was, you said that, well, it wasn't a question, it was a statement that Christ was a Jew, right?
Right.
Hebrews 7:14. This is something what you said is in the Bible, so I want to bring that first. Hebrews 7:14. Then I want Jeremiah 14:2.
Hebrews chapter 7 and verse 14. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah.
So it said it's evident, it's obvious that our Lord Jesus Christ came from Judah. Now, what do the Judah or the Jews look like? Jeremiah 14:2.
Judah mourneth.
And it says that Judah, they're in mourning. Keep going.
And the gates thereof languish.
The gates meaning their leaders, because a gate is like a hedge or a protection. So our gates, our leaders, their language, there's no real true leaders out here in 2026. Okay. Right? Keep going.
They are black unto the ground.
They're black. The Jews are black.
Yeah,
Swarthy, yeah. Now check this out for the ones that's calling themselves Jews. This right here blew me away. Last one, Revelations 2:9. This verse right here blew me away when I first read it. I was like, dang, this is in the Bible?
Revelation 2 and verse 9. I know thy works, and tribulation, and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan.
Oh,
Synagogue of Satan.
I like that. Yeah, that was
The synagogue of Satan.
Of what's going on currently, and if you didn't catch that, then you just still sleep. You know, you just oblivious
You didn't
to the
catch
truth.
that, you
And,
just
you know,
still
they
sleep.
say
You don't want to wake up.
Truth leaves no room for doubt.
Truth
And the truth is
leaves
right there in the
no
book.
room for
Hey, I
doubt.
appreciate you, D-Word. And
Woo-wee.
that's a cut.
The truth leaves no room for doubt. Ain't no doubt about it,
What color
baby.
is Jesus?
They say his skin was like brass.
All right, so
And,
check this out. I want to give you
I'm
two
trying
verses.
to go back.
Because
Yeah.
your question was,
Yeah, it leaves no room for doubt. That man was a ghost. He walking now. He got his leg. He got his leg, y'all. Trump's scared to go outside. He's scared to go outside. That's why his ass was trying to run to Texas. Don't come to Texas. Stay your ass where you at. With all of your lies and deceit. Shoot fly, don't bother us. Oh no, don't come to Texas. Hold on. I don't want to hear no fake speech. Cash. Hold on, let me get back over here.
I am so excited to introduce you to our latest sipping bone broth at Brodo. Our Tom Yum is rich with creamy coconut, Thai.
Now we wait ages for a Donald to come along. Now we wait ages for a Donald to come along.
I'm trying to get his current one. Hold on. Yeah, no, I don't think I wanna. Yeah, no, I don't want to touch those just yet. Hold on, y'all. Yeah, let me hear this one.
I ain't got to do that for the rest of my life.
He say he don't have to do nothing about the. He don't have to do nothing for the rest of his life.
I get a whole line come every week.
Poor Floyd Mayweather, and I'm not really being.
He said for the rest of his life, long as I got them oohs as friends and gonna reinvest my money. Undefeated boxing legend Floyd Mayweather coming out of retirement after 9 years because his partner played with his money.
One thing about me, I ain't got to do that for the rest of my life. I can sit at home line come every week.
Poor Floyd Mayweather, and I'm not really being sarcastic. He just had to file another lawsuit yesterday, $175 million against this guy, Jonah Recknitz. Jonah Recknitz is this Shlomo Recknitz, who's worth about $780 million. Shlomo,
he's the president of
you right,
Emmis
Esther.
and the Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, the recipient
of its
Oh,
most
y'all
prominent
gotta
Chesed
see these
Award.
faces. Hold
He's
up.
worth about $780 million. Shlomo,
He's the president of Taurus Emes and the Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, the recipient of its most prominent Chesed Award. Shlomo was honored by UCLA
Jonah, Lappy grew up in LA. He moved.
and the Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, the recipient of its most
So
prominent
he a
Chesed
fake Jew.
$1 million. Shlomo,
He's the president of Taurus Emes and the Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, the recipient of its most prominent Chesed Award. Shlomo was honored by UCLA.
Jonah, Lappy grew up in LA. He moves out to New York 08, 09. He wants to start a hedge fund. Hedge fund is when you get rich people that give you large amounts of money to invest. He wants special access, of course. He wants to be able to impress his potential investors. He starts bribing a bunch of people, police, different officials, and then Mayor de Blasio.
So he got in with the mob of it all. Is that what he's saying? Huh? The mob.
Bribing a bunch of people, police, different
Bribery. So that's why he loved Trump. He's invested in his cause. So he done sold his soul to the devil. He was playing the devil's game. So that's what he has been into. That's who he's been invested in. He calls him friend. You are my friend. You are my enemy. Yeah, him. Big boy. Let's go.
bribing a bunch of people, police, different officials, and then Mayor de Blasio's administration. Feds coming knocking like 2015, 2016. Jonah turns on everybody. He testifies against police officials. Union
He
officials,
started
things
snitching.
such as he would charter jets to Las Vegas with a PROSTIT on them and have police officials on there.
With dinners, presents, and sordid activities, like
With
a Las
PRO
Vegas trip with
what?
a prostitute who's
He testifies against police officials, union officials, things such as he would charter jets to Las Vegas with a PROSTIT on them and have police officials on there.
with dinners, presents,
Human.
and
I mean, that
sordid
trafficking
activities,
shit.
like
Cross
a Las
state
Vegas
lines,
trip
that
with a
Diddy
prostitute
stuff.
who spoke to us, confirming it and saying she's no longer in that life.
That playing experience was so traumatic that I stopped doing it.
Jeremy Reichberg is
So
the
she was
Brooklyn
one of the
businessman and
hookers.
former fundraiser for Mayor Bill de Blasio, just
Oh,
convicted
very low.
of paying
Ooh,
for
Lord.
perks, capping a 2-month corruption trial that had testimony sensational enough to tarnish reputations from top levels of City Hall to top brass at NYPD. Reichberg for years palled around
on,
with
I wanna
fellow
get
de
back to
Blasio
this
donor
hooker.
Jonah Recknett in that life.
That playing experience was so traumatic that I stopped doing it.
Jeremy Reichberg is the Brooklyn businessman and former fundraiser for Mayor Bill de Blasio, just convicted of paying for perks, capping a 2-month corruption trial that had testimony sensational enough to tarnish reputations from top levels of City Hall to top brass at NYPD. Reichberg for years palled around with fellow de Blasio donor Jonah Recknitz. Here on the right, in between them, is former NYPD Chief of Department Philip Banks. Reichberg and Recknitz gained
Uncle
special
Phil.
favors, including VIP parking at one police plaza. The men were caught on this video
Uncle
bragging
Phil.
about it.
We're passing the frozen zone, about to get to the garage. Please salute us, officer, if you still want your job.
Reichberg is guilty on 4 of 5 counts relating to gifts to officers from him and Recknitz, who wound up pleading guilty to wire fraud and cooperated with the feds.
So, Jonah gets 5 months in federal prison. He gets out, he goes back to LA where he opens a jewelry store. And this is, I presume, where he met Floyd Mayweather. As we know, Mayweather loves jewelry.
Jonah is also facing multiple lawsuits related to the luxury jewelry business.
Okay.
He opened in LA after the guilty plea in New York.
Yes.
Investors and lenders claim that Jonah defrauded them and stole from them.
Okay.
You promoted jewelry for Jadel. Did those lawsuits surprise you?
I will always love Jonah. I trust Jonah.
Trust?
Not just 10%, 20%, 100%.
You trust him. Oh, well, that's why you broke now. He trusts the Jewish
I'm
person.
not perfect, so
Again, remember I said earlier he was trying to get in.
Did it surprise you?
I will always love Jonah. I trust Jonah, not just 10%, 20%,
I trust
100%.
Jonah.
I'm not perfect, so.
Again, remember I said earlier he was
Wow.
trying to get into the hedge fund thing in New York. He wants people to give him money so he can invest it and take a cut. That's his thing, run a hedge fund. He gets Floyd Mayweather, and not to be funny, but we saw Floyd Mayweather's inability to read very well. 50 Cent out
Oh,
of him.
wow.
I don't know if this has anything to do with it. What about Jonah Recknitz's personality? You know, you have to think, boy, do people think that other people are like characters on a movie? Was Floyd Mayweather looking for a rich Jewish friend we thought would know all the ins and outs of financial things? Did he not look into who this guy was? Hey, you just got out of prison for corrupting public officials, and then you turned against him.
Yeah,
and
you
testified
wanted
against
you
him.
wanted a
Maybe
dirty
I don't
guy.
wanna be, I mean, we could be acquaintances, but maybe I don't want to make you my business advisor.
I see people
So
do it
Floyd
every
gave
day
a
on
certain amount
YouTube.
of legal
Trust people with
power
their
to this
social
guy. Now, if you
security number
remember
that are
some
career
time
criminals.
back, Floyd
I
was
see it every
bragging
day.
about having hundreds of millions of dollars in property, and then
62 apartment buildings in New York City. And what I need you guys to do, slide over and check out the photos. It's not all 62 buildings, it's a few buildings, but guess what? All the buildings belong to me. I don't have no partners.
people were looking up the records of the property he supposedly owned, and he didn't own none of it. Well, that was tying in with Jonah Recknitz and something called Apex Ventures, First Apex Ventures.
We're in New York City right now. We're in their head. This is what we do. Come on. You know what I
That's what we do.
do? No partners. All by myself. Over 1,000 apartments. I'm just getting started.
And Recknitz and First Apex Ventures were just, according to the civil lawsuit, they were just stealing from Floyd. You had incidents such as a $7.5 million bank transfer that was supposed to go from maybe a loan taken under Floyd's name to go pay some of Floyd's bills. They just redirected it to their bank account. They sold Floyd had a 1996 Gulfstream jet, which I assume, I don't know, I forgot to look up how much it was worth. Yeah, a used jet's gotta be, what, 20 million, right? Sold it, kept the money. Floyd never saw any of it. Ridiculous one. Remember I said Recknitz owned a jewelry store, which is where, in LA, after
He gonna find out them diamonds ain't real.
out of New York, he had access to Floyd's jewelry. Now, Floyd apparently had over $100 million worth of jewelry. So I could safe to assume Floyd has an addiction to shopping, for jewelry especially. We've all seen him flexing jewelry before. Well, Recknitz had access to 100 million of Floyd's jewelry, which wouldn't have been, I'm sure Floyd didn't give him all of the jewelry, because Floyd likes to wear jewelry. Recknitz down in Miami was basically pawning the jewelry to other jewelers for pennies on the dollar. He received about $13 million for $100 million worth of Floyd's jewelry, and then he wasn't making the you got to make payments.
Oh, wow.
2% a month or something. Well, he wasn't paying.
50% of people in this
Wow,
country
he
are
was
driving
selling
into
his
foods,
stuff.
and even more of them can't afford the premiums.
Wow, what type of friend is that?
Came up with the idea of the Thrive Mark.
Jonah is also facing multiple lawsuits related to the luxury jewelry business.
Okay.
He opened in LA.
Okay.
A guilty plea in New York.
Yes.
Investors and lenders claim that Jonah defrauded them and stole from them.
Okay.
You promoted jewelry for Jadel. Did those lawsuits surprise you?
I will always love Jonah. I trust Jonah, not just 10%, 20%, 100%. I'm not perfect, so.
There's a text message in the lawsuit.
Wow.
We're going to start selling this stuff, or breaking it down, because, take the diamonds off, melt down the gold, whatever. Recknitz says, sure, go ahead, thanks. Or agreed, thanks. So he's pawned Floyd's jewelry. He's not making the payments on it. Floyd has no knowledge this is going on.
My most expensive watch that I currently own is 18 million.
Wow.
One watch. One watch.
Floyd, if you remember,
Wow.
he had to file a $350 million lawsuit against Showtime, a guy that was running
Unless
the
you're going to
Showtime
hire them as
boxing,
an
and
attorney.
the shadowy figure
Janet,
Al Heenan, who I
unless
don't think is
you
in the
need
lawsuit, but he's
an
mentioned
attorney
in the
for some
lawsuit. Floyd,
serious,
all those big
to get
fights
you out
we
of some
saw,
serious
remember he fought
trouble.
Pacquiao, maybe De La Hoya. He had that whole run of
Still
fights
have to
that
pay the
sort of
taxes
towards
on
the end
all
of his
them
career
buildings.
where he
Oh my
really,
God.
where he was saying, you know, I'm independent now, this is where I'm, and he was bragging about how much money he made in those fights. Well, he didn't get paid, or he got paid half of the money for a lot of them. So if he was supposed to get 700 million, he got 300 million. So he has that lawsuit going on for 375, and then now he has another 175 going against this Jonah Rechnitz, who had just got out of federal prison for fraud stuff. And Floyd didn't, I mean, you gotta Google your new friends. I mean, what are these guys, who are these, what is this person's past before you let him have control of financial stuff? So, pretty crazy what Floyd has let have happen to his money. Sad. I mean, it's easy to dislike Floyd Mayweather, but he earned his money. Floyd, one of the most amazing boxers, certainly probably the best defensive and technical boxer, which is the brains part of boxing, so he can't be dumb, but...
We all live, we all learn, we all make mistakes. There's no one that's perfect. Jonah is my friend. He's a person that I love.
Oh,
He's a
wow.
person that I would stand behind through the good, the
Well,
bad, and the
now
ugly.
you want, right. Now
Just
you
so
want to sue him.
focused on what? Showing off, on spending money, on proving to everyone he was rich. And it was weird with Floyd. It never got old for him. I can see wilding out for a couple of years, but it never got old. And then he became the target of parasite, like
Parasite. There go that word again.
Rechnitz first corrupted police and other officials, union officials in New York City. He testified against all of them. He gets 5 months in prison, opens a jewelry store, meets Floyd, and then does a massive fraud to Floyd. So look for criminal charges to go against Jonah Rechnitz. This is the guy that had been sitting with Floyd, and they were personal buddies, or so Floyd thought. What a dark person. I mean, you move up the food chain of money, man, you really want to be careful who you meet, because they might be preying on you. And while Floyd was, you know, a tough guy in the ring, he has been proven to be an easy victim in the business world, which again is sad, because you could dislike Floyd's personality, but he earned his money. He's not a criminal. And I'm sure he wasted a lot of it, but he didn't get paid for half of his fights, according to the lawsuit against Showtime. And this Rechnitz guy was just stealing his money. Imagine, you have $100 million worth of someone's jewelry, you pawn it for $13 million, and they're just like, whatever, sell it, and you just steal the money. So did he think Floyd was so dumb that he would never catch on? Or when you're doing these kind of things, which is probably more of the truth, you're like a gambler. You're being driven by impulse, and Rechnitz just got addicted to this lifestyle of having money. And if you're not making any money,
you broke.
You got to steal somebody else.
You got to steal somebody.
I guess, right?
Oh,
so,
wow.
Floyd Mayweather couldn't beat him in the ring, but he seems to be the perfect victim outside of the ring. It's sad. Let's hope Floyd recovers some of his money.
Wow. Y'all, that's a wow. He trust that. Oh, wow. Yep, never trust them in business unless you need a good attorney. Hold on. Push some stuff over here. I'm trying to see which one I'm on. Oh wow, that is cold-blooded White House turmoil. Who went violent?
And Laura clapped back, saying Tulsi's a leftist. So Trump's mortal enemy just went on Fox News and dropped a major bombshell. This weekend, Trump gave an order, like an actual all caps written order, to the one television network on the planet that has always
Oh,
genuinely
you talking
loved
about
him, Fox News.
Fox
We're gonna want
News?
to
Rampant grand jury misconduct, rampant prosecutorial misconduct, all taking place at the hands of a criminal enterprise that now calls itself the Trump DOJ. We're seeing very high-profile examples of grand jury misconduct, prosecutorial misconduct, but I
That's the
also
same
want to
thing that happened
highlight
to
that
Drew
these are
Brees.
emblematic of what's
So
happening
Floyd
across
Mayweather
the
is not
country.
the
What a
only one.
great time to be a criminal defense
Drew
attorney
Brees
right now,
super
because
guy for
you
his
have some
time.
of the best arguments
He
to get
trusted him.
cases
He said he
dismissed,
trusted him. He
even where
loved
there
him.
are strong cases potentially against your client, when you see the behavior of the Trump DOJ. But I want to talk about some frivolous cases and the behavior by the Trump DOJ, and then we can talk about at large what's happening. Pay attention, this is very important. You may have learned about the headlines, but let's dig deeper. You know the Broadview 6, that's the detention center in Illinois, where lots of migrants were held in these concentration camp-like environments. Remember the protesters who were outside of that Broadview facility, and some high-profile protesters like Kat Abuguzela and other like leaders. She was running for Congress, and she's well known. Lots of other people were out there, and this was kind of the Trump regime.
Facial hair sucks, but this cream has allowed me to stop shaving my face every day.
Oh Lord.
You know, making a whole show arrest of Kat and all of these people who were protesting based on the conditions of those migrants, and they were shackled, and these individuals and arrested and paraded. And remember that the Trump DOJ said, we're going after you. Well, that case got dismissed because of serious grand jury misconduct. You may remember when I was with Harry Litman, we were talking about, like, you know, what information was provided to the grand jury. We speculated maybe there was some grand jury misconduct.
I need
Oftentimes,
the lights
you don't
up.
get to know, most times, almost always, you don't know what happens in a grand jury, because peaceful protesters who were being attacked themselves by Donald Trump's ICE, like, you know, what information was provided to the grand
Hey, Big
jury
Pink.
in order to even get the indictment of the Broadview 6, these protesters? We saw the videos of them. I mean, they look like, you know, peaceful protesters who were being attacked themselves by Donald Trump's ICE and Border Patrol Gestapo. So we speculated maybe there was some grand jury misconduct. Oftentimes, you don't get to know, well, most times, almost always, you don't know what happens in a grand jury, because there's grand jury secrecy under Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E. But where there is a very high bar that you have to make in a showing that there could be misconduct, sometimes you're able to get the grand jury transcript. And where people have been able to do
Big
that with
Pink.
this Trump regime, they've seen some of the most horrifyingly unethical behavior taking place by Trump DOJ officials, who both don't know how to behave in front of grand juries, and are just patently giving false legal information, unlawful instructions to these grand jurors. Now, in a grand jury setting, there's no judge in the room, and there's no defense attorneys in the room. It's based on these norms that there is a presumption that prosecutors are experienced people who behave in good faith, and that they will give the grand jurors what the law is, and then the grand jury will return a true bill of indictment if the evidence is presented. But you don't have anyone else in the room. You develop that bond with the grand jury. And what the Trump regime seems to have done, or did do in Broadview, and in Illinois, because there was a finding by the judge, but what we're seeing across the country is they're doing something called vouching. They're vouching for their case, which is improper, where you basically go in front of the grand jury and you're like, hey, I'm the prosecutor, bring you some easy cases right now.
This is a good one. We're going to get you out of here quickly. I'm very experienced. I'm just going to have you
Just
sign
lying.
off on this. We're going to go through the motions, but just trust me as a prosecutor. I'm an experienced guy or experienced person, or guy or woman. Sign off on this. That's vouching versus explaining what the law is, and you take yourself out of it. You present the law to the jury is what's supposed to happen. So this vouching took place in Illinois. It was uncovered through a motion unearthing the grand jury transcripts, and the federal judges said, we, in our entire careers, this is unfathomable, awful conduct. And now the lawyers for the Broadview Six, including Kat and others, are saying to the judge, make sure that the Trump regime DOJ preserves this evidence. We're not done. It's not enough that we've unearthed this misconduct. The case against the Broadview Six has been dismissed as a result of the grand jury misconduct. Let me be clear about that. But it's not just they're not just celebrating the dismissal, like you destroyed our lives. And we're coming after you now. Whether they're going to go after these prosecutors' bar licenses or file civil lawsuits for misconduct or
All of
now
the
dig deeper
above.
for massive sanctions. This is just the tip of the iceberg now that they got this grand jury transcript. But then you take a look at what's happening in Wyoming, for example. This is maybe not getting enough attention, but there you had this Trump lackey U.S. attorney, a political person, no experience as being a federal prosecutor, would do the same thing, go in front of a grand jury. All right, I got 9 cases for us today. We're going to get through these quickly. These are easy ones. I just need you to sign these true bills, simple stuff. Sign your name, we're good, and then we'll get you out of here. We don't want to take up, just trust me as a prosecutor, you're good. That was uncovered in Wyoming, and 9 cases, at least 9 cases, this infected, and those cases were dismissed, but there may be many more. And across the country, this is probably going on in a rampant way, where you have people who are unqualified and malicious and evil trying to procure indictments by doing this. We must ask, what's in the Don Lemon indictment? What's in this indictment? Remember when we looked into grand jury misconduct in Lindsay Halligan's prosecution of James Comey? It never got to the issue of the grand jury misconduct because the judge ruled that Halligan shouldn't have been in the room in the first place. Her presence was unlawful. It's like not spelling your name correctly on the SATs because she didn't have permission to even be there. That's how incompetent. But had they gone to the next step, they would have definitely found grand jury misconduct the same way the Broadview 6 case was dismissed. Grand jury misconduct. And then that brings us to prosecutorial misconduct. We see this rampant across the country. Vindictive prosecutions like Abrego Garcia. That criminal case that was in Nashville, in Tennessee, vindictive prosecution where someone like Abrego makes the threshold showing of vindictiveness, and then there was an evidentiary hearing, and you were able to show, whoa, you specifically targeted me because of a other agenda to go after me and invade my rights, and you are giving disparate treatment, unlawfully vindictive. And it's very hard to show, but we're seeing increasingly vindictive prosecution defenses succeed. I mentioned Don Lemon. I'm curious to see the vindictive prosecution motion there. James Comey undoubtedly will bring a vindictive prosecution motion amongst a number of other First Amendment challenges as well. But Abrego Garcia also, now that case, criminal case, has been dismissed there. And by the way, hat tip to Abrego, showing that when you stand up to Donald Trump, Trump tried everything with this guy. And I think he goes down in the history books, frankly, as showing a huge amount of courage and winning and succeeding. Abrego deserves a lot more credit. I know he gets a lot of credit, but from a legal perspective, him and his legal team, bravo, bravo, bravo. I want to bring in Harry Littman from Talking Fed's YouTube channel, Substack, and podcast. Harry's a former top federal prosecutor. He was the United States Attorney from the Western Division in Pennsylvania, Western District of Pennsylvania, a top federal prosecutor and named justice. Harry, you're seeing this conduct. Maybe you've seen one rogue prosecutor, you know, who's immediately disciplined for this behavior, who engages in this, and it's such an
Okay,
aberration.
I
And
gotta
it's like,
move on
whoa,
because I
this
got
is
someplace else
how
I want
the
to
Trump
go.
regime does business. This is business as
Before I get
usual
up out of
for
here.
them, and it's getting smoked out in case after case. Break it down for us, Harry.
Yeah, so first,
I want to hear what Como was saying because, you know, he a Trump lover. He makes excuses for
storm is inevitable.
him and Bill O'Reilly.
Being a victim is optional.
Weapons inspectors in to see what.
From low sugar lunches, my kids
I want to
love,
hear what they got to
protein-rich
say.
meals, every product is vetted against their list of 1,000 plus restricted ingredients. Now healthy living feels.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Big man, how are you understanding this latest proposition from the Trump administration?
Well, I think it is more like Venezuela than you think. So I don't think the United States is going to go in there shooting it out. And the reason that Venezuela was relatively successful and easy was we had made deals with
You
the
tricked him.
generals. And I suspect those deals have been made with the Cuban people too. People, you know, who run the armed forces, but I could be wrong. So I believe that you made a mistake when you said that Iran's not a nuclear threat. It is.
It is
And
not.
I believe that evidence is overwhelming.
What
But
evidence?
Cuba isn't.
Farrakhan
And,
say, show him.
Raul Castro deserves what he gets. We all know that. They've been running narcotics through there
You've been
since
lying.
1962.
You lie for
And
Trump.
they're murderers. They're killers.
So is
But
Trump.
I can understand a point of view as, okay, look, we have all of this problem in the Gulf with Iran. We don't know how this is going to work out. Why do we need to do this on Wednesday? You know, can't we wait till June? I understand the question. It should be answered by Hegseth, Secretary of War, but what are you going to do? That just puts it into the, we'd like an answer to this question, Mr. President. It's a legitimate question.
What's next, Congo?
I don't think so, because Ebola. But there's a lot of minerals in Congo.
So they just
no
want to steal
nonstop
all
flights
of
for
their
that's the problem
minerals.
with the
This
Congo.
is
It's tough to
highway robbery
invade there. You gotta
for no
stop 4 or
reason
5
other
times
than
before you
greed
get there.
and pocket it.
It doesn't strike you as curious that not a single member of this puppet administration's intelligence apparatus has come forward with any kind of suggestion that the regime in Iran was weeks away from having a nuclear weapon? Not a single word. Doesn't strike you as curious?
No, because I interviewed, as we spoke on this program, the weapons inspectors out of Austria, and I did interview some U.S. intel people, all of whom
As
say
if they can't lie.
that the enrichment of uranium was going full bore. And yeah, you can say 3 weeks or 8 weeks, but the intent is there from Iran. They don't
It's
wanna
always
give
been an
up
intent. If you
whatever
let the
nuclear
U.S.
stuff
tell
they're
it,
doing.
what
If
have they
weren't doing
done?
anything, they'd let the inspectors in, and all this would go away for them, right?
Yeah, that's why you had the JCPOA.
Well, look, whatever initials you want to use, they won't allow any weapons inspectors in to see what they are doing. I do trust U.S. intelligence. I don't think it's a compromised outfit as some political outfits are. I could be wrong.
Are they
I was
threatening
wrong about
us or are
weapons
we
of mass
threatening
destruction
them?
in Iraq?
This
And the
is for
reason I was
Israel.
wrong was because Saddam Hussein told his own generals he had them. And then those generals leaked it to the New York Times and put it on page 1. And, well, I bought it.
That's not what happened.
Of course that's what happened.
The Bush
exactly what
administration lied about there being yellow cake uranium and there being weapons of mass destruction.
I don't know about
and
yellow
that's how
on.
it started. It didn't come through the New York Times. It came through the Bush administration.
If you go
Mr.
back,
Fair Broker.
and this is easy for you to do, it was on
Yeah.
page 1 of the New York Times.
I'm sure it was.
They had
That's
weapons
not where
of
it
mass
started.
destruction, and it ruined a person you know.
Yeah, the news
Career.
lie. It's propaganda.
I'm well aware. I'm
So
well
don't
aware
say
what
it
happened.
isn't
Also
true,
ruined.
because every
also-
word I said is true.
Well, you think every word you
No,
say
I
is
can
true,
prove
and
it.
that's okay.
Oh, but you want to put 10 grand on it now? I'll prove it.
Yes, I'll tell you what. I'll put $100,000 on this proposition that the idea that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction did not start with the New York Times. It started with the Bush administration, and that's why Colin Powell wound up losing his career when he very well could have been a superior president of the United States.
No,
because they
it
made it up,
started
they
with
ruined
Saddam
intelligence
Hussein.
careers, and they lied.
It started
Look,
with...
he may have been saying it,
That's
but to
what-
blame the New
that's
York
where
Times
it
for what the Bush
started.
administration did, no. It started with Saddam. I'll give you that. But that's not what we're talking about. And it also doesn't matter because it never ends, Bill. We're doing it right now with what's happening in Iran, and I would bet my left eye that if they do something in Cuba, there will also be something we didn't know that they had brewing, that it had to happen right now. And I think the American people
Are sick
are
of
about to
that.
show in the midterms they signed up for a war at home over affordability, over health care, over what's going to happen in the new economy, and that is all being distracted from by these moves. Fair to say?
It's pretty cynical of you to
Cynical.
to say that U.S. intel is just garbage. And,
It is garbage. They're
doesn't,
liars.
No, that's what Trump said.
report accurately.
I never said that. That's what Trump said standing in Helsinki next to Vladimir
You're going
Putin.
to bet your
I
left
watched it in
eye.
real time.
You're going to bet your left eye. Okay, this is what you said.
He said Trump said it. He don't want to acknowledge
The
that.
reason that we're doing. You're going to bet your
I
left
watched it
eye.
in real time.
You're going to bet your left eye. Okay, this is what you said. That the reason that we're doing the Iran thing is bogus.
It is bogus.
You think
Yes,
it's bogus?
there
You
was
said
no
it many
imminent.
times.
There was no imminent nuclear threat, and U.S. intelligence shouldn't be blamed. They never told Trump that the regime was weeks away from a nuclear weapon. Never happened. They never said it, and that's why even he can't have them come forward and lie about it and say, yes, we did. It was imminent.
Well,
That's why they're quiet.
all I can tell you is that the reports that Trump get say that. Now, whether he puts them out publicly, it's up to him. But getting back to Iran,
Just liars.
what's likely
They're
to
so
happen
used
there
to
is a
whitewashing the
military
truth.
strike
It just irks
within a
me.
week. I think he might wait until after Memorial Day. But he can't back down now. Can't back down. Tom Petty once sang it, can't back down. And Cuba,
I am sick of
you have to do
them.
this now. Is it a diversion? Possible. You know, you didn't have to announce Raul Castro's warrant today. You could have done it 2 weeks from now. But does it hurt Trump to announce that? I don't think so. You do. I don't think it's going to hurt him if he can break Iran. If he doesn't break Iran,
He ain't breaking
Donald
nothing.
Trump
Y'all
gets
hit the
into
like
trouble.
button.
I've said it before. And I said in the very beginning, big gamble. Got to win it.
Gotta win it.
Not
Is
too
he
fair to
winning it?
Tom Petty, though. Tom Petty's song was about not backing down from somebody trying to push him off what he believed was important. Nobody was pushing Trump on this. He sought this out. This was a war of choice started by him, which is why they played with the idea of whether it were a war or not. And you and I discussed how absurd that was. And we've moved past that phase. But it's going to end in a deal, right? At some point. It's just under
Not
the
sure.
control of a bunch of despotic zealots who are in control of that process because only we need it to end. The zealots don't want it to end. The
No.
Israelis don't want it to end. Only the Americans do.
But there'll be more punishment for the people of Iran if they don't end it. And Trump can't get, there's only one deal. Only one. The inspectors go in. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But you're dealing with a bunch of crazy zealots who don't care about their people. And President Trump, at least putatively, must care about his people, although that's becoming a debatable proposition given what we're watching happen at home. And they're like trying, it's just like remember in the comics, you had Superman, and then they created this mirror image anti-hero of him called Bizarro. And it seems to me that Trump is becoming the Bizarro of Reagan's Superman. That he is creating situations that, are Make America Great Again, which came from Reagan, as you and I both remember. And the domestic agenda, though, is just being destroyed by him. And I don't understand why. Why doesn't he just take on what's happening?
I think he didn't believe that the Iranian situation would spiral like it has. Because he called me up right when they were first going to do this. He goes, military action or deal? I go, deal if you can get it, because you don't want civilians dead in the dust. And he doesn't.
You were right.
And he doesn't. Okay? And then he said, well, look, I made a campaign promise that they're not going to get nukes. Our intel says they are working feverishly on getting nukes, that the uranium enrichment is going very quickly, and now we have a chance to negate that. And I said, better on a deal, but if you have to use military and you're convinced that's the truth, then you have to use military. And that's where we are.
So it's your fault.
Everything's my fault, Cuomo, you know that. Come on. But you paint a very bleak picture of the domestic situation in the United States. And the stock market was up another 600 points today. And I keep saying that the corporate titans wouldn't be backing Trump if they didn't believe that he was going to come out on top on all this. Now, it may take a little while, but Trump has run out of, we're going to delay. He doesn't have any more time, pretty much. I understand that there are talks going on right now. He says they're close, but we've heard that word close a lot of times. The American people are going, this is time to put this to bed. They are going.
The oil stocks are very sideways. There's tons of volatility there, even amongst the gamblers within those commodities markets. The stock market is up. We should all understand, because of a handful of AI companies who went with Trump, 4 of the 7 that are driving 80% of the growth in the stock market index. The S&P 500 is motivated by a handful of companies. Half the companies in the S&P 500 are flat or down.
In my
it's
portfolio,
very lopsided.
It's
not Main Street, okay?
It doesn't matter. In my portfolio, I have one AI stock, one. And the portfolio is up very, very big.
All up in his butt.
The importance of that is the corporations have not bailed on Trump.
Must leave. Okay, Miss Conference. Until next time, peace. I'm about to get ready to go too.
Okay, I'm worried about them too. And that's why things have to be resolved. They have to. Can't wait.
Well, I agree. I believe that the fight should be at home. I believe that the fight should have been not with China about whether or not they can open the Strait of Hormuz, but how we get production away from Taiwan and why it's here. I don't understand why the Democrats haven't made this their hill to die on.
Because
we're going to be the chip economy.
They don't care about that. That's not. They have no foreign policy.
They may wind up. Finding this opportunity because it's staring them right in the face.
There's nobody. The Democrats have no foreign policy whatsoever. None. Listen to Schumer. Listen to him read off the words off the page. He doesn't have any foreign policy, and that's what's going to save Trump and the GOP if they can be saved in the midterms. Is that? Am I going to vote for a party that has nothing? They got nothing?
We ain't got nothing now.
Listen, they
advantage.
They have to have something. You're right. They have to have something. And I will again just direct people to history.
I believe them more than I believe Trump.
The beautiful version of Donald Trump. He was an inspirational figure. He kept saying America was great. Trump has been a reductive opposite of that. But in both sets of midterms,
opposite.
Reagan got walloped after his first and second election. For the same reason. Well, maybe. We're in a more extreme time and an angrier time, but we'll see. And I will be discussing it with you all the way through. Bill O'Reilly, thank you for being on with us tonight.
Yeah, with your racist ass. Yeah, I said it out loud.
I served in the United States Army as a combat medic. Being able to carry another service member off.
Any weapons inspectors in to see.
What makes this kit the perfect kit for doing touch-ups on the go?
This little kit, amazing.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Big man, how are you understanding this latest proposition from the Trump administration?
Well, I think it is more like Venezuela than you think. So.
I'm gonna end on this one.
The consistent.
Good day to you and a happy Memorial Day. I'm Ari Melbourne. You're watching MS Now, and I'm going to be with you for the next 2 hours across our holiday coverage. And we do have a lot planned for you, so you'll be up to date on the news, including what's been breaking across this holiday weekend and some other special surprises. But we begin with the growing Republican fears that Donald Trump's fixation on settling personal scores, plus self-enrichment and alleged corruption, is actually dragging down the whole party. Top Republicans, including in elected positions and other important positions, are expressing their concern with how the way Donald Trump is will hurt them in the midterms and beyond. He's called rising prices peanuts. He has outlined plans for money for criminals, the soft on crime, anti-police, pro-insurrection fund that may not get off the ground because there's already been so much pushback. Today, the Times reports on what it calls Trump's self-indulgence, deepening Republican fears for the midterms. And this is, of course, the official start of summer this holiday weekend. And the summer is a time where people tend to tune out of politics a little bit and then come back for the home stretch of the midterms. So if this is the baked-in headlines and views of the summer, that's bad for Trump and the Republicans. The Thug Fund is a jaw-dropper that's incensed Republicans in the Senate over the holiday weekend. Reports they are vexed. One senator in the party says the stupid stuff is killing their chances. Another Republican pollster notes that if Trump's highest goal were to maintain control of Congress, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. That's also against the backdrop of the economic problems, the gas prices, and an open-ended situation in Iran. They are trying to reopen the strait. That may involve concessions, which are different from how Trump previewed a victorious short war before it really got off the ground. Now we've seen how long it's taking. The Wall Street Journal, a sister outlet in Rupert Murdoch's empire to Fox News, says that if he gives up too much, saving the regime now with a bailout would be a real betrayal of the U.S. interest even more than the Iranian people.
End the war. Release the Epstein files. That's the ultimate betrayal.
What could happen to terrorize the world. Ted Cruz is concerned. Senator Graham, who's very politically loyal to Trump, is worrying that the type of deal they're talking about, which of course Trump needs with his back against the wall in the midterms, would actually allow the Iranian regime that the U.S. is supposed to be fighting to become more powerful. That is the background for longtime conservative voices like Megyn Kelly to discuss the decline of MAGA.
MAGA is not what it was. MAGA is now this very, very small group of Trump diehard loyalists who have to love Mark Levin. And so that's, by definition, an increasingly tiny group.
MAGA is tiny. MAGA is dying, to laughter of the on-air and off-camera guests that Kelly was speaking with. That's the state of the right. We've heard the Republican criticism in Congress against Trump getting even louder going into the start of this summer, and you can only imagine what they say when the cameras aren't on.
With that in mind, I want to bring in our guests for a special discussion here on this holiday. Che Komanduri, politically has worked for 3 different presidential campaigns, including Obama, and political science professor Christina Greer. Welcome to both of you. Christina, that's a brief summary of the problems this summer. If you wanted a full list, it would take longer, but we're all familiar. And so I mentioned that summer is a time where some people pull away from politics and the news. That's bad for them if it levels kind of the score, the attention at a point where Republicans are clearly behind, and they say so themselves.
Yeah, well, hopefully the Democrats will be able to capitalize on this moment and articulate to voters not just their own, but the growing number of independents who are increasingly displeased with this administration. I mean, summer is also the time, Ari, where people like to be outside and they like to drive different places and go see national parks, the ones that are still open. We've got gas that's almost $1.50 more than it was last summer. There are just economic strains that almost all Americans are feeling, quite honestly, and Republicans are trying to backpedal, but they've created a dragon that they've fed consistently for close to a decade, and now so many of them are hand-wringing, saying, like, why is he biting us? And it's very clear Donald Trump has his own agenda, and he's not really thinking about his party. And so Republicans in Congress have abdicated to the president consistently, and now they've sort of painted themselves into a corner where economically they're trying to justify some of the president's whims. And we've seen some Republicans when they're leaving office saying, you know, a new profile in courage, saying, like, this is actually not great for us, the party, the country. But where were they for so many years when the president has just been unleashed and is increasingly getting more and more draconian and vindictive, not just to Democrats, but to members of his own party?
Yeah. Che, for viewers who might tune in during today's holiday, we're live right now. Happy Memorial Day. And don't know what a movie buff you are. Your movie knowledge rivals your political knowledge. Is that fair to say?
I think so, yeah. So I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, I mean, you know a lot about movies. And I'm looking at this saying, you know, you got Ted Cruz and others, you know, upset with Donald Trump about his actions, about the self-dealing, about the alleged corruption, about an open-ended war that he promised would be short and it's not.
Now, he promised in the beginning no wars, ending all
you might remember.
Year-long
It's kind of like
wars.
Republicans saying, I know what you did this summer. I'm mad about what you're doing right now, Jay. Your thoughts?
Well, I wish you had referenced a better movie than I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'll just leave it at that, my opinions on that film. It was just a really bad Scream knockoff in an era of Scream knockoffs. But, you know, I think your point is salient. You know, they're just figuring this out now. Donald Trump is impulsive. He has terrible instincts that he always follows, that he can't be reined in by experts. I mean, how, you know, where have they been? I mean, we saw all of these things in display in the first term, particularly in the pandemic year of 2020, where he didn't listen to anybody, where he followed his own instincts, where he literally told Americans to drink bleach. You know, he did all of those things. He lost the election. He claimed he won the election. He let a mob on the Capitol grounds on January 6th. And so why is anyone surprised at how the last 18 months
he was not the president.
Donald Trump has been inaugurated have turned out? He's behaved exactly as he did that last year when he fired all the experts. No longer were people like Jim Mathis and John Kelly around him. It was just him and his instincts, and that's what you're seeing now. It's leading to disastrous results.
He didn't come out this weekend, though.
I'm going to show you something we put together here that is the building. We got to this point. If you follow politics over the last several years, you would rarely see Tucker Carlson or Joe Rogan criticizing Donald Trump with any strength. Over the last couple of weeks, especially from the Epstein to the war, there's been a shift, and it's been on multiple issues. Now we get a Megyn Kelly criticism once a week, and maybe that's because they see exactly where everything's going, and they want to get with the next hot thing, which is not, according to her, MAGA. So we put this together. It's over a minute. It's a good watch, we think. It also saves you if you don't want to watch all these podcasts yourself. This is your shortcut, and we'll get your views, Professor, on the other side.
I'm scared of this tariff stuff. Trump has put his tariffs all over the place. I've been trying to understand them. I don't.
His giant tariff policy that he just dropped on the market unilaterally, probably unconstitutionally. What the f is going on with our country? Guys, why am I poor?
It seems like you think
your base is stupid. That's how I feel. I feel like Trump
said, why is
thinks
he poor?
his base is stupid.
Deporting people because you don't like who they're criticizing? Like, that gets kind of shifty.
3 times I voted for this man. This is by far the biggest fumble of the administration they've had thus far.
It's indefensible that the answers aren't there when so much was promised.
It looks terrible. It looks terrible for Trump when he was saying that none of this was real. This is all a hoax. This is not a hoax.
There is something there, and it's being covered up, and the president blessed it. He can't be a dignified, strong leader without threatening a bunch of war crimes.
So what do you think of what's going on in Iran?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
All of it's terrifying.
I'm sick of it. Can't he just behave like a normal human?
It's all 86-47 is
y'all stroked his ego too much.
Right. And then
Y'all building with confidence that he didn't have.
Nuts.
Professor?
He wasn't supposed to
Well, I
betray
appreciate you
them.
putting together that compilation so I don't have to sit through all those podcasts. But I will say, the president promised his base, economic security and abundance. And ever since he's, gotten reelected, we started with the tariff policy, which has only hit, American pockets and made groceries and everything else go up. But the refusal to justify the attack on Iran has really, I think, shaken up some of the Republicans, and maybe not necessarily the MAGA base just in full swath, but a lot of Republicans are still waiting for a justification because it's not just the moral quandary that we found ourselves in and the international isolation, but the economic
Christians,
draining
we need
and
you to
hole
vote
that he's put the country
Christian.
in
I'm not
that will
Christian.
be around for well over a decade plus. I mean, we know how much it costs to enter and exit these wars, and so the refusal to have any sort of justification, the consistent doubling down saying, you're fine, economics are fine, the country is prospering, when his own base is telling him that is not the case. They don't feel any sort of economic prosperity. That was promised. That's why they voted for him 3 times, many of them. So this, we're seeing an increasingly unhinged president, as Che said, though, with this second term of
He
Donald
wouldn't take
Trump,
his ass
especially
outside.
with him going after innocent Americans, essentially ruling by miscellaneous edict. I mean, every day there's something new. And I think for a lot of Republicans, seeing him literally rip up Washington, D.C. with no justification or economic plan is quite worrisome. And so the only way they see a path to victory is obviously gerrymandering, which we're seeing across the South, and obviously it'll come to other states up north sooner rather than later. But that is the only political path for many Republicans, because the policies just aren't there. We can see in the poll numbers, not just from, obviously Democrats aren't happy, but the growing number of independents and Republicans increasingly so, to say nothing of young people who were just completely disillusioned by not just the president, but his entire feckless administration.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're at. Jay, we want any film that you think captures this moment as we begin the summer, and your response to the above, including what has been a market shift in the digital MAGA space.
Yeah, I mean, you referenced the Jennifer Love Hewitt movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I have another Jennifer Love Hewitt movie, Heartbreakers, because these MAGA podcasters have had their heart broken. And in that movie, Jennifer Love Hewitt, people remember, was a con artist. And she cons people, often with romantic enticements, and then breaks their heart and leaves them. And that's exactly what has happened here. These MAGA podcasters thought, when Donald Trump was inaugurated 18 months ago, that Mar-a-Lago was going to become the new Rome, and that this whole thing was going to work out so wonderfully. This guy was entertaining.
To go to Don Jr.'s wedding.
He was someone you want to have a beer with, even though he doesn't actually drink. Well, it's all turned out very, very badly for everyone involved. The writing was on the wall. They disregarded it, and they basically talked themselves and everyone who listened to them into voting for Donald Trump.
There it is. Coming attractions for the summer blockbuster that is our lived chaos. Che and Christina, You make the holiday that much sweeter. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here, Ari. Thanks.
Appreciate you guys. We've got a lot coming up, I mentioned. We have the effort by Donald Trump to not only erase and lie about, but also pay off and fund the criminals who stormed our Capitol, something many thought was unthinkable. Now it's a question of what America's going to do about it. Professor Murray is here. We also look at the Trump economy and lessons from the past with a very special guest. That's going to be really interesting, I think, coming up later. And Jeff Daniels, the beloved actor who's no story that haunts Trump, but he is clearly willing to risk a lot, including the midterms, to deal with. That is the fact that he and his fans were part of an insurrection against the United States. At the time, he claimed he would deal with anyone who did violence, but the truth was different and much darker.
Got a leg,
violence. He embraced the
coming
violence.
to hunt him.
He embraces violence against police. He is soft on crime as long as it's crime that benefits his politics. And so those things sound uncomfortable to say. Here we are on Memorial Day. People don't necessarily want to just sit around and believe the worst about their president.
So
but everything I just told you is what
lost
he's doing.
his life trying to
he is anti-police. He is freeing people who were incarcerated only because
but that young man been hollering and making noise around the White House. I think they set him up like they did Tyler Robinson.
Plan, which might be illegal and get stopped, to fund Jan 6 and other criminals. Now it's also trying to remove facts about what they did on their site, including
to be out there making noise in front of the White House
by our government. And now the people in control of our government apparently
to make it seem like they need that
who they're friends with, what they support, why they're anti-police.
Ballroom. I need to get back. I think the other day when I just up and stopped.
Please grab a mask, place it in your lap, and be prepared to don your mask in advance.
On what former President Clinton was saying about Chelsea. I'm going to go back to that because it looked like I stopped.
We've got to remember.
A quarter in.
Now look, folks, when the person charged with protecting America's secrets, the Director of National Intelligence, overseeing 18 agencies, walks out the door in the middle of a war, you better believe that matters. It matters to every single one of us. Today, May 22nd, 2026, Tulsi Gabbard submitted her resignation. She says it's about her husband Abraham's bone cancer diagnosis. And let me be clear.
I hope they didn't really kill him.
I wish him nothing but healing and strength. That's a human reality no one should question. But here's the honest truth.
They're doing a
this
population
resignation
control.
didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened after months of being sidelined from war decisions on Iran. After Trump himself told reporters, "I don't care what she said," when she testified there was no nuclear threat. After The Guardian reported he told advisors about replacing her. After Joe Kent walked out in protest. After a whistleblower accused her office of withholding intelligence for political reasons. So we've got a resignation letter that says one thing and a trail of evidence that tells a much deeper story about how this administration handles dissent, how it treats the people tasked with telling hard truths, and what happens to our national security when loyalty matters more than accuracy. And we'll come back to that in a moment. Because what comes next affects whether America can trust the intelligence it's receiving during an active conflict with Iran. Let me tell you something about this job, the Director of National Intelligence. It was created after September 11, 2001, for one reason: to make sure 18 intelligence agencies never fail to connect the dots again. It exists to coordinate truth and deliver it to the president, whether he wants to hear it or not. Now, Tulsi Gabbard's journey to that office is unlike anything we've seen. She served in Iraq. She was a Democratic congresswoman from Hawaii. She ran for president in 2020 on an anti-war platform. She left the Democratic Party in 2022, joined the Republicans in October 2024, endorsed Trump, and by February 12, 2025, she was confirmed 52-48, with Mitch McConnell, the only Republican, voting no. Nearly 100 former national security officials had publicly warned against her confirmation. Then came February 28, 2026. The United States and Israel launched nearly 900 strikes on Iran in 12 hours. And here's where it gets critical. Gabbard, the nation's top intelligence official, was not in the room when those decisions were made. NBC reported she was sidelined from key deliberations on Iran and Venezuela. She was the intelligence chief in title, but increasingly not in practice. We've got to remember, a DNI who isn't trusted with war decisions isn't really a DNI at all. And that raises the question, was she there to inform policy or to provide political cover? And that distinction matters enormously. Now let's walk through this carefully, because the sequence matters. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched nearly 900 strikes on Iran in 12 hours. 17 days later, March 17th, Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, resigned. In his letter to Trump, he wrote,
I'm sick of this
I
bull crap.
cannot in good conscience support the
I'm sick of this
ongoing
bull
war
crap.
in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. He called it catastrophic and unlawful. The very next day, March 18th, Gabbard appeared before the Senate Intelligence Committee. Senator Ossoff pressed her directly. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that Iran posed an imminent nuclear threat? She wouldn't answer plainly. Instead, she said, it is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat. Lawmakers from both parties found that extraordinary.
It's like, what?
Then this week, her annual threats testimony. She told Congress that last year's strikes had obliterated Iran's nuclear program with no subsequent effort to rebuild. That directly contradicted Trump's justification for continued military action. By April 2nd, The Guardian reported Trump was privately polling cabinet members about replacing her. NBC confirmed she'd been sidelined from key war decisions, not even in the room. And then today, May 22nd, her resignation letter. Abraham's cancer. Trump posts it on Truth Social. Tulsi has done an incredible job. But the trail tells a different story. And this is where things start to get complicated. Now look, let me tell you something about leadership from somebody who sat in that chair. When you're president, you don't get to surround yourself only with people who tell you what you want to hear. You need people who tell you what you need to hear. That's not weakness, that's strength. What we're seeing here is a pattern. Donald Trump brings people in, talented people, loyal people, and the moment they deliver an assessment he finds politically inconvenient, they become disposable. Joe Kent said the Iran war was catastrophic and unlawful. Gone. Gabbard testified that it was not the intelligence community's job to determine what constitutes an imminent threat. And within weeks, Trump was polling his cabinet about replacing her. Now that testimony she gave on March 18th. Let me be precise about what happened. Senator Ossoff asked a direct question. Did the intelligence community assess that Iran posed an imminent nuclear threat? And Gabbard would not give a direct answer. She said, and I quote, "It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat." Here's what concerns me. That statement is technically defensible, but it's also a signal. She was telling Congress, without saying it outright, that the intelligence didn't support the justification for war. And when a DNI has to speak in riddles to avoid contradicting the president publicly, that tells you everything about the environment she was operating in. The choice before any leader is simple. Do you serve truth or do you serve power?
Right.
And this administration has made clear
Power.
which one it rewards. We've got to remember what the intelligence community is actually for. It exists to give our leaders the clearest possible picture of threats, so that when a president makes a decision about war and peace, it's based on facts, not on political convenience, not on what polls will, facts. Now consider what's happened. Gabbard is the fourth woman to leave this cabinet in 3 months, after Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, and Lori Chavez de Remer, all under clouds. That's not a coincidence. That's a culture. But beyond the personnel churn, look at what's been done to the institution itself. Gabbard revoked 37 security clearances from former intelligence officials. A whistleblower filed a top-secret complaint alleging her office withheld classified information for political reasons, and Republican committee chairs dismissed it without investigation. Career analysts at the National Intelligence Council were fired after producing an assessment that contradicted the administration's legal rationale for deportations. Emails from her own chief of staff pushed for intelligence to be rewritten so it wouldn't be used against the DNI or POTUS. And now Aaron Lucas, a former CIA case officer with no Senate confirmation, steps in as acting DNI during an active war. No hearing, no public vetting, no accountability to the American people. Here's the honest truth. When intelligence professionals see that telling the truth gets you fired and bending the truth keeps you employed, the whole system starts to self-censor. And a self-censoring intelligence community is a blind intelligence community. That makes every American less safe. Let me tell you something that most people won't say plainly. This resignation isn't just about one person leaving a job. It's a crack in the foundation of a political movement. Joe Kent resigned and said publicly that the United States started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Tucker Carlson amplified it. Megyn Kelly echoed it. Marjorie Taylor Greene called Kent a great American hero. Meanwhile, Mitch McConnell called his letter virulent anti-Semitism, and Elise Stefanik pressed Gabbard in Congress to condemn Kent, which she notably would not do. This is a fault line running straight through the MAGA coalition. On one side, you've got the anti-war nationalists who voted for Trump because he promised to end forever wars. On the other, you've got the pro-Israel hawks who see Iran as an existential threat, and the president is caught between them. Now here's what tells you how serious this is. House Republicans just canceled a war powers vote yesterday, May 21st, because they didn't have the votes to defeat it. They couldn't even hold their own caucus together. The Senate advanced the same measure with 4 Republican defections. NBC polling shows 58% of independents oppose these strikes. Among non-MAGA Republicans, only 54% support the war. And Fox News? They ran the cancer story as the entire explanation for Gabbard's departure. No mention of the sidelining, no mention of the intelligence disputes. When your media ecosystem can't even acknowledge the fracture, you can't begin to fix it. Now let me tell you where I think this goes. And I want to be careful here because I'm projecting, not prophesying. But patterns have consequences. First, the immediate concern. We have an acting DNI with no Senate confirmation, overseeing intelligence during an active military conflict with Iran. Trump himself said just days ago he was 1 hour away from ordering new strikes before calling them off. The Strait of Hormuz remains disrupted. Gas is above $4. And the person coordinating intelligence for these decisions has never faced a single confirmation question from the United States Senate. Second, Congress is approaching a constitutional confrontation. We're past 60 days under the War Powers Resolution. The House couldn't kill the War Powers measure. The Senate advanced it. If this continues, we may see the first successful War Powers Resolution since 1973, and a president who ignores it.
That's his own boy.
Third, and this is what keeps me up at night. Gabbard's effective date is June 30th. Once she's fully outside the administration, she may speak more freely. She knows what intelligence existed before February 28th.
If
she
get
knows
too smart,
whether Iran truly posed an imminent threat. If she chooses to tell that story publicly, it could reshape the entire political landscape heading into the midterms. And fourth, this war is already damaging Trump politically. His own base is splintering. His own Congress can't hold the line. The administration that promised to end forever wars launched one without authorization and is now hemorrhaging the people who objected. That's not strength. That's instability. Let me close with this. I've been thinking a lot lately about what we owe each other in a democracy. Not as Republicans or Democrats, but as Americans. We owe each other honesty. We owe each other leaders who listen to hard truth and don't punish the messengers. We owe each other institutions that function independently of any one person's ego or political survival. And we owe each other an intelligence community that serves the nation's security, not a president's narrative. Now, I want to say something about Tulsi Gabbard's husband. Abraham Williams has been diagnosed with a rare bone cancer. That is real. That is painful. And no matter what the political circumstances, that family deserves our compassion and our prayers. I mean that sincerely. But compassion for a family's private pain cannot become a shield against public accountability. The American people deserve to know whether their intelligence community was sidelined during decisions of war and peace. They deserve to know whether the justification for striking Iran was supported by the evidence. They deserve to know why 4 senior officials have left this administration in 3 months, and whether the pattern points to something deeper than personal circumstance. We've corrected course before in this country. After Vietnam, after Iraq, after every moment when power overreached and truth was suppressed, Americans stood up and demanded better. And we got better. Not perfect, but better. That's the covenant we keep. And I truly believe, we can keep it again. But only if we refuse to look away.
Okay, y'all, I'll be back later. Yeah, hit the like button for me. If you didn't hit it coming in, please hit it on the way out. Hold on, let me bring you closer to me. Can y'all hear me? If you didn't hit the like button coming in, please hit it on the way out. Like, share, subscribe. Okay? Support the platform. Cash App, $ AUNTEAFEE. I would greatly appreciate the support. It's important to bring y'all to locations that provide you with the truth. Because ain't nothing but a lot of staged narratives and a bunch of lies to deceive you. Okay? I'll be back later. What time is it? 7:30. Y'all, I'll be back. Bye-bye.